There, there.
I think, well, as long as you're in the lobby, you're muted anyway.
Yep. Yeah, good.
Okay, let's see. I think we should be live. Episode 3, everybody. Just gonna wait on my other screen for the YouTube thing to confirm that I'm actually live.
Yep, we're good.
Yay, we're live. Wonderful. Okay, so we're gonna watch some breakdancing here. Of course, this needs to happen. Now, what are we doing here? Why are we here? I forgot. I just woke up. I have no idea.
Bro,
All right.
it's like
Bridge
5
Builders
p.m.
episode. Sorry?
It's like 5 p.m. in Germany.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I got to get up at some point. Sound check. Can you guys all hear us well?
Let us know in the chat.
Let us know in the comments. If you don't comment, that also is an answer. Tell us about your builders and location. Where are you guys from? What builders are you guys using? Would be interesting to know. And
Looks like we're
hey,
good.
Max is here. Nice to see you, Max. Wonderful. All right. So what's going to happen today? This is not my builder. Why is this relevant? And this is the kind of comment that I keep getting. It always pops up here and there. But why is this relevant? Because we want to create a dialogue. We want to compare builders. We want to compare real life workflows, and that's why in Bridge Builders we have people on just to build different websites or parts of different websites as of today in different builders, show off their workflows, and then we can all discuss in the chat and I guess roast them. We're going to be here for about 2 hours, although it could be more than that. I might have to pop out because actually my brother-in-law is taking care of my kid downstairs, and you never know what happens there. Seriously. So this is very, I'm very glad we have Brendan here. For those of you guys who haven't met Brendan, we introduced him in the Bridge Builder Brains episode that I highly recommend watching. And Brendan is our newest team member. He kind of followed us home. So we were like, okay, here's some water, here's some food, make us some coffee. And he's here now to just, be part of the team. We're seriously very, very glad to have you, Brendan. It's awesome. And,
Yes, sir.
we've
Good to be
been
here.
we've been having a great time just preparing everything, preparing this episode, chatting in the background, shooting the shit. And, this is going to be a good one. So it means I
thanks
can
for
pop
having me.
out and take care of my kid.
Absolutely. I'll try and entertain people while you're gone, but I don't know if I can. Those are some big shoes to fill, sir.
I don't know. A big hat, perhaps. Like we were talking about how I'm like older than you guys, and you're like, you look so young. That's because of the hat. Because if you see this, then that this is,
Not a day over 25, bro, like Brandon
That's what I
said.
said.
Thank you very much. Jonathan and Ruben just sitting there in the lobby, being like, what the fuck is with these guys? Why aren't they putting us on? Okay, so this time we go by sections and the builders take turns. So this is a new thing we're trying, because if you've seen episodes 1 and 2, really what we try to do first, we try to build TaylorSwift.com as far as we could go. And then the second one was, what were we building? Ghost. And, also going through that. And it kind of ended up being just one guy building and the other guy watching. And then, then we just flipped sides. But now we just want to take one section at a time, and then, discuss while this is happening. So we have more of a conversation even going on than before. Yeah, so that's it. WP Easy said, I managed to be awake. Awesome. Hope Ruben.
A little early there in Australia.
Ruben, sorry?
It's a little early there.
Yeah. So hats off to you, man. Nice one. Shout out and thanks to previous guests and fans is another thing I have in here. Just wanted to say thanks, really, seriously. All you guys that have been supporting us, all you guys that are sharing and talking about Bridge Builders, this really means the world to us. And also just big kudos to the wonderful guys who are on today. And I forgot their names, but they're wonderful. And to Kevin and Brian, who were there before. This is fantastic. Also, I just want to give another quick shout out to Jamie Marsland. Don't forget to check out his show as well, because we keep getting comparisons. And he's doing the speed build challenge. It's somewhat superficial or similar to ours, but what he does is more he gets people on to really quickly build as much as they can within 30 minutes of a website, and it is very entertaining. But obviously, it doesn't go as much in depth as we do. But it's still a show worth checking out. It's usually on Friday nights, but I don't think there's one tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be live on stage at WCEU.
That's right.
Pretty soon. I think maybe it's 1 p.m. today. I don't know. Just go YouTube WordPress channel, and you can look at the schedule for WCEU as well. But yeah, so Rich Tabor and Jessica. Buddy, you're behind, dude. You gotta.
I'm way behind.
Subscribe. You gotta subscribe to something.
I need to ditch the kid. That's the thing.
Sell the kid.
So next step on this, next thing on my agenda, what we've written here is quickfire guest introduction. So let's get Jonathan and Ruben in here. Round of applause. Come on. Hello, guys. Hello, guys. All right. So
we got a squad here.
I gotta say, I have my iced coffee in Jonathan's honor too.
Hell yes.
Perfect.
That's what I'm talking about, dude. Oh, wow. The bottom row is popping off.
Big time.
We are well hydrated.
Good.
That's amazing.
Good. Do you guys want to say a little bit about yourselves? Jonathan, you want to start?
Sure. Jonathan Jernigan, I know all of you guys here. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. You probably know me from many years ago making Oxygen content. That's where I got my start in 2018. And still have a place in my heart for Oxygen. And I these days I'm building with Generate Press, Generate Blocks. I do some YouTube tutorials here and there, and then my days lately are spent on my courses and then PyCalendar. So shout out Elijah and PyCalendar. Glad to see you in the chat, dude.
Dope.
Ruben, it's your turn.
Oh, my bad. I thought you were going to introduce me. I want an introduction as well.
Yeah, man, you totally warrant an introduction.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to Jonathan. He's my hero. I've been watching him since the content day, so I'm a little nervous. So I want to apologize to all the people that count on me to make a good performance today. I'm nervous. Well, my name is Ruben Garcia. I've been building websites since I was 15. Worked with so many different marketing companies throughout my whole life. So, I mean, cookie cutter websites, building 3 to 4 sites a week sometimes, and knocking those out. And then last year, me and Renato created Headspin. It's a framework, CSS framework for breakdance specifically. So that's been a crazy year experience with him, learning a ton of stuff about breakdance itself, that's inner workings. And I'm excited to say I'm an official breakdancer. So I have a small agency with 42 clients who want to get to 100. That's my goal. So it's been a fun journey just doing this independently for the past 3 years. So it's been fun.
Fuck yeah.
Dope.
And just like, if I understand correctly, Headspin UI at this point is still free.
Yeah, Headspin will always be free.
Will always be free. And
yeah,
that blew my mind when I read that.
Yeah, the core framework of CSS is free, yeah.
Yeah, but just looking at, your intro videos to it, I'm like, how is he giving this away? It's awesome. Really nice.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Should we talk about what you guys are going to build today?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
I think we should.
So it's a website called Postmark. And I've been wondering what Postmark could mean. And I came up with this theory. Let's say you introduce, like you spend a weekend with Mark, right? And you're really having a lot of fun. It's great, getting drunk, all that shit. Then it's Monday, and you realize it's going to be another week until you see Mark again. So you get post-Mark depression, right? So that's basically what this website is about, to the best of my knowledge.
I thought you got sick of him, so you sent him in the post back to where he came from. I thought
Oh,
that's
right, yeah.
That makes more sense.
That could be another one,
A lot more sense.
Postmark.com is a service for delivering emails. I'm sure many of you people know it. And so when I looked at it first, I was like, I want to see somebody suffer through building this. And then unfortunately, Jonathan and Ruben were in the wrong place at the wrong time. So this is what's going to happen today. We're gonna definitely look at the first section. We're going to look at the second section, which is more probably a bit easier or more straightforward with the tabs. And then I think, Jonathan, you suggested that if there's time, we can go into the mega menu here, Or we could just go further down the page. We can also just, do by popular demand. We can ask people what they think should be done next. And that's basically the idea. Are we all ready? I'm ready. I'm just going to sit back and watch, so I'm ready.
Hell yeah. Did we say that we're going to go back and forth with sections? Did I miss that?
Yeah. Yeah, you missed that. And yes,
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
It'll be better this time. So we're excited.
Nice.
Dope.
Jonathan, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Show us what you've prepared.
Yeah, so let me clean up some of these tabs here. I was just doing some last second preparations. I am the ultimate procrastinator. So here we are, live on stream, and I'm mashing buttons behind the scenes. Share my screen, I assume. I probably should have done that beforehand, yeah?
All good. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?
There we go.
There.
Put that.
So
I'm going to unshare mine.
we are, okay, cool. You can see mine. So I kind of made the executive decision to just kind of lay the foundation for the site as I would for a real build, but I haven't actually started on the content itself. I've spent some time inspecting it and just kind of understanding, the general approach that we're going to take, but I thought it might be helpful to see specifically how I would do it as though, you were sitting next to me looking over my shoulder and we were kind of working on it for the first time together. Obviously that's not as an efficient approach as if I had built it already, which, for a lot of my tutorial videos, I do actually go through it entirely once. So then the second recording is buttery, or as buttery as it can be. But this is my stack for the most part. Obviously I'm missing some things like my form plugin of choice and that kind of thing. But with Generate Press, that acts as your theme. And the plugin GP Premium just adds some extra features, which really, I couldn't live without nowadays. It's like you have this function called Elements, and Elements is where you can do things like remove certain portions of the site. Like, for instance, if you had a landing page and you wanted to get rid of the header, you can create an element to remove the header on that page, for example. Or the elements also, they act as like your template engine. So if I wanted to create an archive post type or whatever, I create it as an element. On this site, this is how I start all of them. I just have a layout that I call full width. And what that does is it removes the sidebars, because by default in Generate Press, the pages have like the standard, WordPress widgets sidebars. And then it will show the post title automatically. So you can kind of configure what you want to do as far as getting rid of those. And then I just have it set to do that on the whole site. And then in terms of the other setup, it's all done in the WordPress customizer. And I figured it would be interesting to look at this because it's probably going to be so, like polar opposite from what we'll see with Breakdance and Ruben. So, for instance, like the colors, I have just the postmark colors that I just grabbed from their site. And these are all CSS variables, so you can reference these in a style sheet or in Generate Blocks. You'll see them incorporated there as well. Mm-hmm. And then I've just done some basic stuff like actually there's not, it's a little bit confusing right now because we're in this weird transition phase with all these updates coming to Generate Blocks. There's a fully featured class system, which we'll take a look at in a second. And the line between what is Generate Press and what is Generate Blocks these days is really blurring. So I think they're making a concerted effort to clean that up. But in this case, I've just set my colors, and you have the option to configure all the different, global variables that you want, like link colors and, buttons, and if you wanted a specific color for your headings and stuff. The other thing I've done is set up my typography. So the Postmark website uses some fonts that one appears to be from Adobe Fonts, and then one I think is like a paid custom font. So I just grabbed what I felt like was the closest available from Google Fonts, and then done what I would typically do on a real website, which is just setting those in the the various typography items through the site, like the body tag, primary menu items is a little bit different, extra font weight. H1, setting that to be 3.25 rem, which is, what is that, 58 pixels or something like that. And then, that's really like the summary of the setup. Most of the time, I'm cloning from a staging site, so it's going to have some default colors and typography and stuff, but it's pretty simple. So
just
then,
from my understanding, if I can interrupt you real quick.
Sure.
I'm So I've been using Generate Press with Beaver Builder, and so basically Generate Blocks here is just a plugin that you use in combination with Generate Press and the Generate Press Pro thingamabob, right? GP Premium, exactly. I recognize that, and then you got Generate Blocks and Generate Blocks Pro. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so you can use Generate Blocks independently. Like if you have a brick site and you want to be able to use some of the functions inside like the block editor that Bricks wouldn't offer, you can stick Generate Blocks on there and use it. So it's completely theme agnostic. You just get some minor benefits from incorporating it with Generate Press, like the global colors and those kinds of things being brought in. But yeah, they do operate independently from each other, but of course they make a lot of sense to combine.
Yeah.
Is the category of Generate Press, is it a classic theme?
I think technically, yeah.
Because it uses like the customizer still?
Yeah.
Is that
Right.
Yep.
so?
Yeah,
And what you just showed there, that's where you have to do those things, right? That's where you have to set that stuff up.
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
In terms of like your fonts and colors and that kind of thing, that all happens in the customizer. That I suspect is changing because they're working on a bunch of stuff that's really going to consolidate. There's a lot of legacy stuff because Generate Press has been around 10 years now. So there are some functions that just look like weirdly out of place, and they're making an effort to kind of clean all that stuff up. So I think it's going to be all consolidated into kind of one location in the future, but that day is not today.
Got it.
So then, if we're going to go build the homepage, block editor, I don't know, how many people watching or, you guys here on stage with me have how much time you spend in the block editor. So maybe just if anybody wants to chime in on how, granular and specific you want me to get, but this is the interface. So let me actually back out real quick here. My opinion is that the block editor is actually really good. The people who say that it's dog shit really haven't spent enough time with it. It is if you really stop and look at what it's doing and what it's capable of, it's pretty incredible. So I will say though that the caveat to that obviously is that there are a lot of things that the core blocks leave to be desired. So that's why I love Generate Blocks, because it really digs into, it gives you so much more than is available with core. So when I would start building, I'm going to use a container, and the container is Generate Blocks element. It's not a core block. Maybe because I haven't spent enough time with it, but I really dislike when I see other, block editor based sites and they're using groups and rows and stacks and stuff. I'm like, just give me a container. I just want a div. Give me the div. And that's exactly what this is.
Nice.
So when you add the container, you can see immediately it's kind of like Bricks or Oxygen or whatever, in the sense that you have this full, you just attach what they call global styles, but it's just CSS classes. And then you have all the standard options you would expect. Like, do you want it to be display flex or grid or whatever? Like all these options are available. And we're in, again, back to the limbo phase point. Because of this class system that's here now, there are some options that exist on the global style side that don't exist on like the local, ID style side, which is kind of annoying, but they're definitely going to fix that. So in this case, if I were to try to replicate Postmark, the first thing I might want to do is set this header to yellow, which I could actually just go back to the customizer. And then if I were to go to colors and then header, I can just set my header background to my global yellow right there. So that's done. You could also create like an overlay header. That might be what this actually is, but I typically don't create those sort of overlay headers. So then from this point, we would have maybe, I don't know what that is, like 3 rem of padding. So I just created a simple little class that I would use here, just padding 3. So all that is just a global style. Where is it? With 3 rem padding top and bottom. Seems like I couldn't quite follow their logic for how they're building these sections. They do some weird stuff on this website, like this. Well, okay, so I'm wrong already. This has 4 rem padding top and bottom. Then there's this one with 1 top and bottom. Like, what are they doing here? Why is this so convoluted?
Yeah.
0 right, 1 top, like +4. Why? What are you doing? So
we were talking about how this is a major huge company that's doing this, and then we're fine.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
we don't have anything to fear.
An extra div or an extra class here and there is not going to kill us if this
No.
company can do the revenue that we suspect they do, and
Yeah.
and their website looks like this. But I mean, really, if you look at it, it's not that difficult. Like, it's a section with 2 divs, and then there's a couple of classes on it. Like, this is pretty straightforward for a company of this scale, which is pretty cool to see. So in this case, like, I make a concerted effort to really like strip down this stuff. If I receive that in a Figma design from a designer, like, I don't strive to make it perfect against the Figma design. Like, I want to make it usable, and I want to make it in a reasonable time frame. I don't want to agonize over these details. Like this little like slider thing. It's like kind of cool. It's just a CSS animation. There's like a keyframe and a translate that's making that happen. But it's weird to me that you can click it and it takes you to Twitter from their homepage. That seems totally asinine to me. But also the fact you can't stop this. Like, if I want to read this, I'm hovering it. There's no stop button. So that to me is kind of crazy.
Click and drag, nothing.
So
right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, nothing.
So with that, for me, if I was looking at this and a designer sent it to me and they're like, it scrolls, I'm like, no, I'm going to put 3 of these and that's going to be it. So that's kind of where we're going to take this. So what we would do then at this point is pop in a generate blocks headline. So there's the core heading, and then there's a generate blocks headline. And the generate blocks headline gives you all the styling controls that we already looked at. And oh shit, I accidentally added it to a container. I didn't mean to do that. But then, of course, you also have the ability to add a global style to it. But you can see that the styling here is inherited from what I already set in the Generate Press Customizer earlier. So the font weight, the font size, all those kinds of parameters are already set for us, which is great. So then in a case like this, where we're just going to add some paragraph text, I just typically slap in, I just copy and paste it in, which gives us the core paragraph. But your Generate Blocks headline can also be set as a paragraph tag or a div. So you have a lot of flexibility there. But if I'm just straight up going to be using only text, then I just use the standard core blocks.
So
Can I stop you for a sec? Yeah, go ahead, Maddie. I got a question there too.
2 people wanted to speak, right? Okay, I'm going to go first. So let's say I want to have a heading that is not an H1 for whatever reason, but I want it to look like an H1. Then I can just use a utility class on that, right? So
totally.
That's something that's just as easily as in bricks, I guess.
For sure. Exactly the same idea. I mean, if it needed to look like an H1, but semantically it's an H2, you could just switch the tag, or, you just make it a P tag, and then you can just add a global style, like, whatever it is, H1 alt or H1 looks like, or whatever.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then you can configure it that way.
Jonathan, if I'm imagining the workflow, and like, obviously Generate Blocks extends core heavily, and we're going to see how, all the cool blocks and the features. But like what you've already just said here, like there's heading and there's headline.
Yeah.
This isn't really a generate question, I guess, but would you, if there was an option for this, or maybe there is an option to turn off the core stuff that's like overlapping that you're never going to use? Like, do you think that would be a cool thing? Because I feel like I would just get super confused. I'm like looking at this blocks and I'm gonna have to remember which ones are which.
There's so many. You're totally right. Yeah, you can go to the little dots and then preferences, and then you can go to blocks and you can turn off any of the core ones that you don't want. Like it,
nice.
I have like the vast majority of them disabled on typical sites. Like I think with this, I'd probably uncheck all of these except like paragraph and then like list. I use that one fairly often because it's just an easy LI.
It's a nice feature.
Then like media, I pretty much don't use any of these. There's a Generate Blocks image element design. I definitely don't use any of those. You get the idea. You can turn off a ton of them to make it.
You're turning off a lot of it though. That makes sense.
And this is the core feature, right? Like you can do this even if you're not.
Yeah, that's a core feature, definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So then the next item here would be a button, and then another kind of like link button. So just like in Bricks or probably Breakdance, which I'm looking forward to seeing. By the way, I mentioned this before the stream started. I straight up haven't looked at Breakdance a single time in 2 years. So Ruben, I'm stoked to see it. You should don't be nervous, but
be nervous.
We got this container here, and I would stick in a button. This is the Generate Blocks button, because again, it has a lot more controls, and I can also add a class to it. So, in this case, we can go ahead and configure our first class. So button primary, blank style. Actually, I can copy the local block styles. There's a couple of things that you have to configure, like inline flex and some other things like that to make it kind of appear properly. But we can start editing this. So then what's the styling here? It's actually, funny enough, it's pretty similar to the default generate blocks button. That's actually kind of hilarious. But let's see. Let's just inspect this real quick so we can make it look half decent. Font size is 1.25 rem, and then padding 18. Oh, I'm getting a phone call. Of course, I forgot to mute my phone. Sorry about that. D&D. There we go. So I'm of the opinion I always convert this stuff to rem. Maybe that's the wrong thing to do, but that's what I do. So it's going to be like 1.125 rem, and then I'm just going to go 2 rem left and right for now. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head. And then it looks like we have some local styles here that I need to clear out because I moved them over, but we can clear that out. And then we'll go to layout. Inline flex is already set, which is good. So our button appears properly. And then it looks bigger than that. Why is that? Of course. Good question. Who knows? We'll proceed. So what do we have? Some border radius? Where is that coming from? Who knows? Because their stuff is crazy. Oh, there's another button. There we go. 4 pixels. And then we also have this dope feature, which I'll show you here in a second, which I absolutely love for box shadow. So border radius of 4. Oh, wrong class. Ooh, I have 2 tabs on the homepage open. I'm glad I noticed that and didn't accidentally overwrite myself. Let's see, where was I? Borders, border radius 4. There we go. And then for box shadow, we have this cool thing that's available now in the latest version of Generate Blocks, which I showed on a previous stream. But you can click this little thing and say add via paste. So some of those tools that will like generate 4 layers of box shadow for you. You can just click this add to paste and just drop in the CSS just directly, and then it will just add that in for you, which is pretty cool. So if you had multiple layers, it'll all pop in, which I love. Those tiny little like things where you don't have to add 3 classes to get 3 layers of box shadow. Big fan.
Super nice.
It's that kind of thing where you can just tell the developers were really thinking, when they made the thing.
Definitely. That's the interesting thing about the Generate team is that they move really slowly, but it's very intentional. And that when an update comes, you can just mash the update button and just walk away.
Big time.
Like, your stuff is not going to break. And that's really valuable to me.
Yeah. All the time that I've used Generate Press, like Tom is really a solid guy. Like he also just whenever there's any need for support, he and his team are always on top of it.
Yeah, they have great support. I'm in their Discord, since I'm making videos for them, and the speed at which they respond to support threads is like insane. It's really crazy. I know that's like kind of an expectation for companies like that, but just to see it is really cool. So it looks like there's a little bit of letter spacing here, and I can't quite identify what that is. Maybe it's just the difference in the font, though, since the font I chose is slightly different. Maybe that's what's labeling it or making it appear that way for me. It's not really that big of a deal. These are the things that I would skip over, typically, but I want to make sure we're doing a reasonable job here. Okay, we're going to call that one done. What does that button say? Start free trial. And then the next one is that alternate button, just this link. Now I noticed one thing. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I noticed that this button, this secondary button, doesn't have the same padding around it. And the other button, is much bigger in terms of its clickable area. And one thing I noticed Google, like Material Design and some of the other frameworks do, is they make the link buttons actually the same physical size. So they take up the same space on the page, which I thought was pretty interesting. So that's something that I've kind of started to do. So again, all I would do, there's actually a variety of ways from this point that you could add in another block. You can do it straight, keyboard. From this point, I can just press enter. Oh shit, no, I can't. Of course not. I'm making a liar out of me. It should work. Damn it. Well, okay. Normally what you can do, like if I'm on this paragraph and I just press enter, it's going to take me to a new line and I could just, pop in another button element.
But he said but.
Or Or I can click the 3 dots from this point and just say add after. So then I would just stick in another button. I probably should have done a little like, stacked class situation here to have like my padding and stuff on like a primary class. And then this one could have just been alt and then just changed like background colors and stuff. But here we are live on stream. That's what happens sometimes. Same thing, 1.125 rem. And then cool. Again, got some local block styles. Oh, I forgot to talk about hover style. So I'll do that too. Let me go back over here and clear this local block styles. I hope they get rid of that. It's really annoying that you have to go clear out the defaults, or if I can just configure it to not have those defaults, that'd be great. What does that say? So this looks right. API documentation, and then a little arrow. So I have to do this on the actual like ID level, but I could just make like a little right arrow, say icon location right, and there we go. Cool. And then once it's actually linked, it automatically underlines because that one is underlined. So that's another thing I mentioned before the stream started, like some of those things where you like kind of need to have like a an underline to indicate a link that it just does it for you and generate blocks. So if I just made it like Google or whatever, it's going to just have that link underline. And then you would probably want to configure this. So our, let's see, our typography, our text color here, maybe you want it to be that black color. And then the hover styles are just done on the global style. You just click the little hover button and it adds the hover pseudo for you, which is cool. And then from this point, the same, text color interface, I don't actually remember what the hover color was, but if we wanted it to be blue, it's just super easy. So I just love how simple this stuff is. And then, yeah, let's see. So what do we want to do here? Maybe adds a little bit of gap between them. So you can do that, if you had a gap class, let's just make one. If I just have a gap class, go blank style, layout, whatever you prefer, flex or grid. So if it's, let's just say flex will be fine. And then our column and row gap in this case, we'll just set 1 rem. Wrong option there. There we go. And now we got some gap between them. It's a little bit hard to see, but there we go. You can see with the border around that button, now it's good to go. So next up would be this little guy. And at this point, what I would do is I'm going to take all 3 of these and, well, actually I got to wrap this one in a container and then I got to drag these inside of them. I know I'm moving quickly here, but I don't want to take up too much of everybody's time versus, in one interface, I want to see Ruben's workflow too. So just like Bricks, Oxygen, and any product like that where you're adding divs and you want to build grids and stuff, at this point I would just stick in another container. So this is going to act as my second grid. And then, now I could actually create like a grid 2 class or whatever. Blank, then layout, display of grid template columns. There's the built-in, options where you can add your own. You can write in your own auto, min, max, calc functions, all that kind of stuff all works in there.
Do you find that when you're using these controls, do they all match the actual terms from CSS and HTML, or do they invent a lot of new shit?
No, that's one thing that I loved about Oxygen in hindsight, and that's something that Generate does too. These are all like they match the actual CSS property name, like you can see, justify content, column gap, flex grow, flex basis. Yeah,
nice.
All that stuff is like 1-to-1 match. Also, you can do like it's got a content area. So if you're using pseudo elements and stuff, you can add in the content function, for that kind of thing, which is pretty cool. And then here again, I would let's just say, for example, I wanted to stick on that same gap class, and there we go. So we're starting to make some progress. Doesn't look exactly the same. Maybe my spacing and stuff is a little bit different, and possibly the builder width. There we go. Now that looks more appropriate. Also, I forgot to set the color so it looks more accurate here. So background, just sort of global. So this is all these colors, we're accessing right now via the generate blocks interface. But obviously you recall earlier I said I was setting those global colors in generate press. So that's where I mentioned that those kind of the parallels between them sort of come together.
Quick question about colors. Do you find yourself having to go and make shades of your primary colors? Like if you want the really light version of that, do you just go in and make that manually, or I
do definitely like the button. These are technically like the hover colors. They look super similar,
Got it.
Yeah, it currently doesn't auto generate them for you, but there's some updates coming that will help you with that. Generate multiple shades, lighter and darker of whatever base color you're inputting, which would be really awesome.
Oh, cool. That's already on the roadmap.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. But it's generate time, so we'll see how long that takes.
Hey, they just gave the class system. That's awesome.
I know it's a huge boost.
Yeah.
So let's take a look on the front end. Let's just see where we're at. Okay, so looks like I have a little bit of header padding I didn't remove yet, and then
that reminds me of a question I had. So, let's say, if I remember correctly from using Generate Press, the header, the navigation bar, you have a bunch of options that Generate Press gives you, but you can't really just customize your own. Like you can't just build a header the way you want it. Like you can put the logo on the left and right. I think you put it in the middle, but you're sort of restricted to whatever the theme allows you to do.
Yep.
But then also, if I remember correctly, and I'm wondering if I've been doing that in a hacky, incorrect way, but you could just use an element. Like you could just disable the header globally, then build a header as a template, and then use that as an element in Generate Press. Is that right?
Yeah, you totally could. It's not an approach I typically take, but one thing that's super sick about these Generate Press elements is if you create what's called a block, you're essentially just building whatever you want in a Generate Blocks interface.
Ooh, nice.
So you could do exactly what you just said. Build that header, and then there's these hooks, and Generate Press has all these standard hooks.
Hooks,
like
yes.
Before and after header, inside nav, before and after content area, left right content area,
Right.
sidebars, footer. Like all these hooks allow you to just drop that
Anywhere.
that block anywhere you want. Yeah, so you could say before content, and that would essentially be your header position. Another example of how I use this on a real site is I have a client who wanted a newsletter sign up. They wanted it one paragraph in on every blog post. So I was able to just use a custom hook, which you can do, and I just used the PHP string to detect how many characters that was and just drop it right in. So these element type, this hook can be custom as well, which is really cool. Hooks are pretty badass. So we are definitely making some progress here. So like I said, in this case, the real Postmark website has the scrolly guy right here, but I certainly wouldn't. I would strongly advise a client against this if they saw this and they're like, we want that. I'd be like, no, absolutely not. So that's something that I just wouldn't do. In this case, we just have this right-hand sidebar. So I think they called this like love wall. Their classes were love wall, and then it's like love wall item for each of the divs here. Is that right? Yeah, love wall item. So I'll just steal their class name. And then
Do I want to know what a love wall is?
Yeah, so then I don't know what it is off the top of my head, just one rim, then background color just be white. I actually didn't define a white color, but that's okay. And then I suspect the border radius was the same thing, like maybe 4 pixels. So then I didn't actually really understand how they're doing this here. I don't know where that photo is coming from. It's not this person's Twitter profile pic, so I don't know exactly how they're doing this, because inside that div, oh, there's an avatar div. I didn't even notice that. There it is. Okay. So let's just grab this guy's photo. We'll just save Mr. Steven here. So in this case, I would use a generate blocks image element. This one, I believe for a while was more semantically correct. It had a figure tag and then the image tag. But I think the core image block is now correct as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So I think...
so that introduces some redundancy. Like you can use a generate press image block, or you could use the core image.
Yeah, the only exception would be that the generate blocks image element still gives you dynamic data option.
Right.
So if you're using it like in a post loop or whatever, you can pull in the featured image, and or even like a custom ACF field you can use as the link source.
That's usually the case. Yeah, they're just gonna be better than I feel like with any page builder really, or any page building method or tool system, like you're gonna have something that introduces just a better version of what's already there. Like we can even in Bricks we can see this with the advanced themer. just introducing a better CSS class manager. And then you have two, which on the one hand kind of clutters stuff and makes shit redundant partly, but also obviously it gives you better quality tools. So it's always I feel there's always a compromise.
Definitely. I mean, it's just like how we would watch Oxygen evolve, you know, like when there was no way to like copy and paste wasn't in there natively. So then like Sridhar and I think David Babinik, or not David Babinik, the other David, they made the like copy and paste, and then eventually it made its way into core Oxygen, you know. There is definitely an evolution. People fill the gap accordingly, and just in time, the core team ends up making it come along. Looks like they have this interesting SVG for their background, which is kind of cool. Let's see if I can grab this. Where is it? This right here. So one thing that you can do, I don't actually know that this is going to work because there's like ellipses and paths and stuff, but you can take an SVG and, oh, well, actually it'll be different in this case, but you can add in that icon area that we looked at before, you can just drop in SVG like that. So
nice.
I think I saw you do that on Jamie's stream, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like in the, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's something I do all the time. I actually don't know how I would do that in this case because there's not an icon option. Maybe I could just do like a, you know, remove the text and then some sort of like position absolute negative margin type situation. Something like that. But that would be roughly how I would do that. And then what else is in here? Just like their text. Oh, see, it takes me to Twitter. I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, don't do that on your websites.
Yeah, they're just trying to bounce people.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah, I'm like, why would you want to? Twitter is designed literally to make you doom scroll. That doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. And you can't even like copy the text out of it because it's like embedded in the image. Yeah, whatever. Ugh. So we'll just pop in some text again. Headline. And I set it as the paragraph tag, so we'll just say postmark is apparently pretty cool. So that'll work. And then it's got let's get rid of this icon. So just imagine that this exists behind the image. And then, you know, we can just take our little love wall item, layout, flex, you know, center align, whatever, column gap, row gap, that sort of thing. And then we do have one thing I forgot to remove, which we can do actually with a variety of different ways. Generate press for headlines and paragraphs adds a bit of default margin bottom. So you can tweak it to whatever you want, but there's you need to add like a little CSS snippet to say like last of type so that margin bottom gets removed. So in this case, you could just zero it out if you wanted to, or just go add like a little CSS snippet to your main style sheet and get rid of that. Yeah, so what else is on this? Is there anything else? Is there like a box shadow or something? I think that's about it. I think I'll just make this a little bit longer since each of them are pretty long. Why is this now suddenly stretching? I wonder if it's because of my flex align. Oh, I didn't define widths on these either. So let's say sizing, max width, I don't know, 70% or something like that. Cool. Maybe 70% is too narrow. You get the idea. Magic numbers. There we go. So then since I have this love wall item in a container with a class on it, I could just duplicate it a couple times. And then we probably would want to make this, what was it, like love wall wrapper or something like that. So then we can just add some layout, flex, column, and then our row gap here would be 1 rem or something like that. So then just like bricks, now we have a little bit of a layout here. And if we wanted to adjust one of the items, we could just straight do it on the global style. And then it's present on, all the other items. So we probably have a little bit more work to do here to make it look, to match perfectly. Like it looks like some of this stuff is a little bit, my spacing here isn't quite right. But you can see like for the most part, let me go tweak the header padding on the left and right that I mentioned. It's layout header, and then there's some default left and right padding on desktop, and then I would go down to mobile and just change it to like 24 or whatever. Actually, that's probably too much because this logo is so big. And then yeah, so definitely a lot closer to the real thing. Obviously, we're missing the scroll effect, but it feels pretty standard, when you compare it to tools like Bricks, Oxygen, and then I don't know how it stacks up against Breakdance, but I guess that's why we're here, eh?
Yeah.
That's dope. Do we have a couple questions in there too, Maddie?
Exactly. I was just going to say, actually, for the past 10 minutes, I've been wondering, like, where do we find a moment to just take a break and look at the chat, and then perhaps go over to Ruben or go back to Jonathan. Well, we'll see. Yeah. But
Definitely.
Solid.
So for just me being, I guess, not paying very close attention at all times because I was reading the chat. Like, it's funny, EVMux, it doesn't automatically scroll down. So for like 15 minutes, I was like, why is nobody responding in the chat? And then I started scrolling and I was like, oh, fuck. Okay.
I think you got to be all the way at the bottom.
I need to catch up on. So, but I kind of missed the part where you showed off how classes are implemented. If you could go back to the backend for just a second, I'm pretty sure it's really straightforward and obvious. But just for my peace of mind, I guess.
Yeah, like
So
show
you
them
have,
the three blocks there, because those each have classes on them, right?
Right.
Oh,
exactly.
yeah. So
and I can see them at the top, and then you just put them on and off, and then if you want to style a class, you just click on it, and now that it's turned red, that's what you're styling.
This red one is just indicating that you have styles at the ID level. And
okay,
so if I wanted to clear that out, I actually don't even know what it is. That's something I asked Tom and the team is like, we have this really cool function to know that this little purple dot is saying that it's coming from the global style or your class. Mm-hmm. And if I click it, it will actually tell me what properties are set, which is super dope. Mm-hmm. If I click this and it's like, oh, from the global style, I'm getting 1 rem of padding on all those. And if I click it, it'll actually take me into that global style.
Oh, that's convenient.
That's nice. But we don't have the same thing for the ID style. So like in this case, I'd have to go inspect or delete it and see what changes. I don't even know. Maybe it's something to do with that icon that I set. But yeah, to your point, like where did I use more than one class on something else? I guess I didn't. But if you had like a button, button 2 is a terrible idea, but I just wanted to stick a second class on here so you can see how it looks. There's just multiple with each one. The other thing that's cool that I wanted to show you guys as well is there's a spot here in the back end. You can go generate blocks, global styles. You can see all of the classes that you've created, and then you can also look at it too and say view CSS, and it shows you.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Like the actual generated CSS. So you can take this out and stick it in your style sheet. If you have to style like your gravity form or whatever, and you want just your button primer to be your gravity form style, you could just copy all that out.
That is super nice.
And then one other thing while we're talking about this is because of the way that generate blocks global style system works now, like you can basically target anything with nested selectors. So, if you can imagine we had a gravity form on the page that's wrapped in a container, I could just add a class, I could just call it like whatever, GF, like styles or something. And then with this system, I can go to more. It gives you a couple of like the standard selectors, but we can create our own nested selector here. So like, if the gravity forms class is like dot, like GP, I don't know what it is, like input, and then there's like a, I don't know, like a div, and then like a dot, whatever, I don't know, maybe like a type selector, like a text or whatever, something like that. You get the idea. You can make your own selectors here, and then you have this whole string of things, and you can add as many as you want in there. So you can have multiple layers of this that are all being sourced from one global style. So that's something that I really, really like. Some people feel a certain type of way about nested selectors, but I think they're pretty dope, and you can get really, really far with just one class, which is awesome. Everything kind of contained together. Technically, I mean, we could have built actually this whole layout here with one nested selector. We could have actually put one global style right here on this wrapper container, and then that would have handled the flex of the divs, and we could set like the image width all from one global style. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. It's pretty cool.
And just to see it in the interface now, like let's say you're on this container, it has the class love all wrapper, and you want to do Like now I see the class there, but if I wanted to do a style on the ID level here, what
Yeah.
would I need to click first?
Well, so we're actually not inside of that class. So if we styled it right here, this
Now
would
you're
be the
styling
ID
on the
level.
ID level.
Yeah. So if I just, for instance, went to the background and made it green, that's a green background on the ID level.
Gotcha.
But you can see when you actually go to the global style, it adds this purple banner up at the top to kind of indicate you're inside of that global style now.
As in inside of that class.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
You're styling
gotcha.
that
Okay,
class. Yeah.
done. I'm done. So let's see.
That was awesome.
This is great. Yeah, definitely. Let's see what people have been saying. So I start a bunch of stuff.
WP Easy, I think, has a great question. If I can jump on that one.
Yes, please.
They say, watching this so far, I have a preference for bricks. What would be your main differentiator for preferring the block editor with Generate? Well, yeah, there we go. There it's highlighted. Thanks. There's a couple of things for me personally. One of them is that with a lot of my clients, they are reasonably technical. They're like a marketing director for a company of a decent size. So they have some WordPress experience, but if you asked them what's a CSS class, they couldn't tell you. So I want them nowhere near my Oxygen backend, for instance. And with blocks, I have the ability to let them in, and it's pretty straightforward. Like, they can edit the content, and there's not a big risk of them screwing up things, all around the site, like there is if somehow they accidentally clicked a container in Oxygen and they were selected the class, and they screwed something up massively. So I like the fact that it's reasonably simple for somewhat technical clients to get in there and make some changes. It's like it's point and click. It sounds stupid, but I tell people it's like it's almost like a Word doc. You can just like literally point and click and just start typing, and that's what they want to do most of the time: change text and images, and that's it.
And
So
also to that point, like I think you can also select any elements here and lock it. Is that correct?
Yep. Because
Yeah.
again, we've added almost all generate blocks elements here, but we have all of the core functions. So if we wanted to lock this, you can prevent removal and movement. So
And sorry guys, I can't control what's on the screen. Maddie had to step away for a minute, so it's kind
we're
of
in the
blocked.
way.
It's kind of blocked right now, but just explain what you're doing.
Yeah, make the
Sorry about
go
that.
back down.
Look at that.
There you go.
What Brendan's point was about locking this stuff. So, we have all generate blocks elements on the page currently, but if I took this container and I didn't want the client to be able to screw it up, I can lock it using the core functions and say, disable movement and prevent deletion. And then you can also apply that like cascade down. So then, you can still change this, but they're not going to be able to delete it easily. You could go and, unlock it and then delete it, but any rational client's not going to do that. So that's really just like a non-issue. And then the other answer to that question that I wanted to briefly touch on was, for me, I just wanted to be closer to WordPress core. Like, obviously this is not close to WordPress core in the sense, like if I disable generate blocks, the layout is broken, but it's closer. And that to me is sort of like a gamble, or not a gamble, but a bet on a company that has probably one of the longest, if not the longest, reputations in our space. Like I said earlier, Generate Press just celebrated its 10-year anniversary. Generate Blocks has been around 4 years. I think Bricks is like at 2 and a bit years. So it's like when I was faced with the transition of like what to do as I moved away from Oxygen, it was like gamble again on a product like Bricks or get closer to core. And so I chose the get closer to core route.
Yeah.
Probably enough rambling for me.
And even what you said earlier about like, it's going to be on the generate timeline for this update, which means like, obviously I guess you're implying it's a little slower, but with that comes stability, over a decade, right? So
Definitely
that's part of that. That's what the trade-off is.
Most definitely. Yep. You're kind of just accepting that things are going to move slowly, but you can just absolutely 100% count on it being perfectly stable. And like I said, you can hit the update all button and not wonder, like, is the front end of my site broken? It's just fine.
Nice.
Ruben, do you want to switch over to you and watch
Not
the
yet.
master in action?
Sorry, Ruben.
Let's do it.
No, it's okay. I have no idea where this damn screen is at.
Okay,
Sorry,
hang on.
monetized.
There's still a bunch of comments
yeah,
that
sure.
I kind of wanted to go through.
Yeah, go over the comments.
I'm so used to hosting the live stream and keeping things moving that here I am as a guest, and I'm trying to.
Appreciate
Isn't
that.
it relaxing? Like how you can just lean back, and peace out.
It's actually like insane how exhausting live streams are. For me, anyway.
I'm aging in front of the camera as we speak. So Germany saw that. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to Marco. It's nice to see you here.
Nice.
Kevin gets here, kick him out. This is very important. Nigel, thanks for coming by, man. It's good to see you.
So,
Always a big
So,
supporter.
Ruben, I hope you've been practicing your catchphrase in front of a mirror.
Yeah, I have.
We all want to hear it.
I have.
Okay, good.
Leave breakdance alone. That's how I say it.
Yeah,
When
perfect.
I type
every
it.
time he types it, that's how
I'm
he says
screaming. Yeah, I'm
I'm still
screaming.
gonna cut this as a clip out of this live stream.
No, don't use it.
Reuse it everywhere. I only use bricks. That's it. Sometimes pods. Yeah, I highlighted that because I've been using pods for many years actually, and it's sort of this underdog that never gets much love. Like people are all talking about. It's called not ACPT. Why am I blanking? ACF. ACF. Thank you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just bought an ACPT license, so let's see about that. Looking forward to checking that out. Max, how's the new plan at GeneratePress? I won the theme and I was paying for the blocks. Do I now pay for the theme and blocks going forward with one?
I don't quite follow, I guess, but
Same here. I'm not quite sure.
if you have an existing license for GeneratePress and GenerateBlocks, those are completely unaffected. Pricing won't change. You're locked in. You can keep those, is my understanding. Or if you choose the new GeneratePress 1, it's one payment, one license key for both products on all your sites. And then there's some other things like the Generate Cloud video that I released earlier this week that will let you share patterns between websites. I don't know how that works in terms of if you don't have GeneratePress 1, but the team has been really good at own. I figured that's what you meant, Max. The team has been really good if you have a billing concern. They're just the type of company that's just going to make it right. They're not going to squabble with you. So if you have any concerns, just definitely reach out to their support.
Dope.
Need a slider, get a plugin. Need some custom CSS, go to another random page on your website and autocomplete refresh, and only then you get the update. Yeah. I don't remember at what point this was said, so I don't know the context of what we were saying in the stream at the time that Tudor Stan here posted that. But I noticed that while you were presenting that there's magic areas happening here, and I do like about bricks that these magic areas are being kept to a minimum. So that's one thing that I think bricks has going for it, in as far as, at least for me.
I'm curious. Do you recall what I showed that you perceive as a magic area? Just because I'm curious.
Customizer.
Yeah, definitely.
I still need to go to the customizer to do a bunch of stuff.
I feel like they're probably gonna fix that though. I feel like isn't kind of aren't we trending towards more block theme approach where everything's in obviously people have weird opinions about FSE too, but isn't FSE kind of the successor to the customizer in a lot of ways because it's gone if you do a block theme? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the roadmap
so
for
too,
GeneratePress
that's right.
is, but
Yeah,
they're working on an FSE theme, right? Generate.
I don't know that it would be considered a true, aligned with WordPress core FSE theme, but it's what Tom said in the Facebook group the other day was think full site editing, but the Generate way. So it's similar concept, but from my understanding, the idea is that it's not reliant on core. So if they introduce some breaking change or some path, some direction that they're not happy with, they're not tied into that ecosystem, which is nice. So we'll see what comes from it. I'm pretty stoked because, like you guys saw, I was singing the praises of the GeneratePress elements where you create your templates and hooks and stuff, but that's kind of a holdover from the legacy time, before Generate Blocks existed. So you have kind of to your point, Matty, you do have some magic areas, but they're looking to kind of consolidate all of those into one one, like interface, one screen. So then you'd control your global styles instead of going to the customizer and studying the typography. You have like a style book, and you'll be able
For
to,
instance, yeah,
yeah,
I'd
so
like
you'll
to
be
see
able
that happen.
do all that
Does-
from one screen.
Does all of this get stored in as like flat files as opposed to like database because it's not a page builder and it's like using a block editor? Do you know?
That's a good question. I really don't know. I mean, it's all like the same kind of markup as the core blocks. So this is like essentially just some sort of like magic JSON kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's cool because you can just take these and drop it on any site and it just works. Like you could just straight copy and paste this and drop it into another site and it'll work.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't really know about the database side. I'm not sure. I've never bothered to look.
Gotcha. Cool.
Okay. So let's breeze through a couple more. And also the chat's popping off now. We've got 50 people watching. Hey
Hell
guys,
yeah.
It's great to have you. Awesome. So let's see what else we have here. When copying the source site, why even look at the inspector? Seems like a waste of time. We should just be comparing the sites. Yeah. It's one thing. I think you mentioned that, Jonathan, at one point, that you're not going to go pixel perfect. And I think that makes perfect sense too. Like, I think I'm kind of repeating what Kevin said the other day, but it makes a lot of sense to me that, if you have a designer who hands you a design, I don't think they expect you to just go pixel perfect on that design. Like, it's your job as a developer to then bring in the methodology and the scalability and maintainability and all these nice, sweet things, making a variable and then just using that variable instead of, pushing pixels around every time for every single concern,
You will.
So I think
mean,
that's...
I've worked with a number of designers, and it's like some of them do want you to change the gap between an element from 4 pixels to 8 pixels, and I'm like, I would bet you $100 nobody notices the difference between that. So why are we wasting
gonna
time
care?
on that? And so that kind of stuff is just so stupid to me. I get that there is a flow and kind of a structure to the site that's organized in some specific way. But some designers, it's like section padding is 87 pixels, and the next time it's 95, and the next time it's 140. Like, you got to interpret and make it your own, make it realistic. And I mean, I probably would still be working on this thing, the section that I just built, if I was trying to make it like exactly like theirs.
Yeah, no, it's a good reminder that like spacing is more about hierarchy than like pixel perfect, right? It's about a flow. It's about creating.
It's about rhythm.
Rhythm and negative spacing and things like that. So don't worry about being pixel perfect.
Maxime is here, or was at some point 34 minutes ago. He's in Torino with all the other guys. He's hanging out with Kevin and Sebastian. So that's great to hear that he's popping in. Very nice. Ruben had to leave. Thanks for hanging, for popping in, Ruben. AT for generate, yeah. So there was a bit of back and forth between people about when AT is coming to what, and that it's merging with ACSS, which I think is a rumor we should definitely start today and see where it goes. Are there styles saved to a class or just on the ID? Yeah, I think we talked about that.
Yeah, those I'll show you just real quick on the front end. Like you can go look, and it's just exactly the markup that you would expect. So like, what is it? This div love wall item. There's the class that we set, and then there's all the CSS properties. So it's just straight. It's as though you wrote it by hand.
Nice.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Yep, I think. George is here. Nice to see you. WP Tuts is here. Hey, Paul. Nice to see you,
Awesome.
man. Thanks for popping in.
Got the big times in this chat.
Sorry?
I said we got the big times in this chat.
Oh, yeah. I think Kevin's afraid of Ruben. I think. Yeah.
I thought he was afraid of me.
Both of you
He's
guys
probably having a couple drinks out there in Torino.
Yeah, I guess it is. It's 5 o'clock.
He doesn't care at this point about his.
Torino.
I did forget my popcorn, but I also think it kind of annoyed people that I was eating popcorn. Any rational kinds? Yeah, you said that at some point, like any rational kinds. I had the same. I did a spit take. That's why I turned my camera off. I did a spit take. Yeah. And let's see. Then there's been another 50 comments since I last checked. I think it's time. Like, we're 1 hour in, and I have time. I can be here for another 1 hour, 1.5. But we definitely should switch to Ruben now. And I'm gonna highlight some more comments here in the meantime, and see where this goes.
You good to go, Ruben?
Yeah, I'm good to
Perhaps
go.
Marco's right. We need to click the thumbs up. Please do. And
yeah, Ruben, if you want to share your screen, then yeah, Maddie can pull it up too.
Yep.
Okay, there it goes.
Lobby's getting crammed here. Let's see.
There it goes. I got to start with my
How do I
intro.
remove the other one?
Everyone,
He's
be
got
quiet
them-
because using this video for my videos. I'm self-promoting myself. Welcome everyone to my YouTube channel. I don't care about these guys. No, I'm joking.
I love
I
that
have
song.
a full-blown production system in my house. But, well, guys, I'm excited to show you Headspin. I think looking at the website, it had a few colors, right? The green, the purple, the red, the yellow, the blue. So the cool thing about Headspin is that you just import all the colors, right? You pick your brand color, you pick it, your neutral colors, you pick it. And then I added the yellow, the red, the purple, the green. And then by default, Breakdance creates 12 variables in light mode and dark mode. The beauty about the recent update is that we have full control of Breakdance. Before I show you Breakdance, pixel size from desktop to mobile. So you have full control of all tokenized items that we allow you to use inside of Breakdance. So that's Headspin in a nutshell. Obviously, I have more videos about that. And as a plugin setup, I'm just using Breakdance, of course, Headspin, and then I just use it. I used the SVG import. The media things I pulled in was the logo, the icons, those little graphic deals. I wasn't able to import. I was trying to save the SVG file and I couldn't import, so I just took a screenshot. And then I just chose a dog for the people I'm going to create that card. And so I didn't want Postmark to be yelling at me. So that's pretty much the nutshell of the actual back end. So I'm not using nothing crazy. So the only thing crazy I'm using is Headspin, which is just a tokenized system to create tokens for you to use inside. So we don't have magic numbers. We can just use a variable, and then the variable can be adjusted on the back end or on the front end as you build. But let's get into it here. Let me see. So, okay. So unfortunately, Breakdance has a few magic areas, right? So the first thing I want to build is, okay, let me show you this first. So this is our website, right? You're able, because of Headspin, you're able to globally select and change the background color. So if you want it to be blue, for example, this dark blue color, your whole site changes colors. It overrides the entire website. So
it just puts it on the body tag? Is that what it does?
So you're able to control globally. So by default, I believe it's natural. By default, if you install Headspin for the first time, it's this white color. So it's this white color, just pretty much like Breakdance. But I mean, if you want to control the whole color system or the whole background on the entire website, which I think it does here, well, it makes it easy for me. And then I could just colorize these sections into a different color. So this is how I would operate this website. Let me see. Okay, now let's go into, what was I doing? Oh, and then for the font itself, it's an Adobe font, and obviously we don't have access to Adobe, so I brought that in with a short code and attached it to a CSS class. So whenever I use this specific font, it's actually the Adobe font. So I just grabbed it and brought it in. Let me see what else. So let's go ahead and go into the magic area, which everyone hates, except me. And then you just create the header. I always call it main. It's a habit of mine. Never going to change. Oh, and apply that everywhere. So once you create your header, which is across all your website, you can create multiple headers on different pages and vice versa. You can do one header for everything, or you can have 1,000 if you want. So you edit inside of Breakdance. The only caveat is you have to import the header element. There's a header builder. And then by default, what I normally do, let's say in this case, it would be an image. I would import the actual logo, and then I'll set a size of, let's say 250. I think it's 250. Yeah. And Breakdance has its own menu system on top of the default WordPress. It has a menu builder that you can do really cool drop downs and things to that extent. So out of the box, it has really cool drop down features. And then here at the end, to mimic the page, I would add a button, right? So the Postmark has a start now free trial button up top, and I would do that. So by default, Breakdance, any element you add into the builder, it kind of separates them evenly. So in order for you to use in order for the text or the buttons to be next to the WordPress menu, I just wrap it in a div and then just throw them in there. And then actually on the div, using the new engine, you can kind of just add, let me see here, where's it at? You can just create it horizontally and then just add a gap, right? And then you're done. So this is part of Headspin, this pop-up. We call it the Copilot. It assists you in adding all the variables into Breakdance. So you don't have to think about the magic area or magic numbers, or then you vertically align the button and the fonts, right? So that's literally all I would do and obviously I would change the font size and things like that to make it exactly perfect if I wanted to. But if you go on the front end now, you actually have the header part of the page. So now let me go back here. Anyone have any question on the header? If you want to ask me a question, you can. You can interrupt me. But
I was going to give a shout out because, like I said, Elijah's my homie, heart. But I know how hard they worked to get the more accessible menu working in Oxygen. So I can't imagine this one is even more powerful. So
yeah,
shout out for them to come up with this and it being accessible despite how much power it has. That's really cool. We don't have a header builder like that in Generate. I think it's coming, but certainly not right now.
Exactly, man. These guys, Lewis has been an amazing support towards me and chit-chatting via emails. It's been super cool. So if I want to recreate this page, what I'm going to do is on my channel, I'm going to recreate all the animation and the effects. I went in there pre-hand and took all the code and just was going to copy and paste it in and make it easy for me. But what I would do first is obviously you open up the page. And then what I like about Breakdance itself, it's very keyboard friendly. So the first thing I would do is add a section. I would add a columns. And technically it's a column, but on the front end, it acts like a div, right? There acts like divs. So I have a 2-column system, right? So now I have the left side, the right side. My workflow is I think about it's a heading, it's a text, and 2 buttons, right? I like to, before I get to designing, I just like to think, okay, it's a heading, it's a text. I'm gonna add a div for the buttons, and then you can do 2 buttons here. So now I added a heading, which I'm gonna just copy and paste into here. I'm gonna copy this into here. And then I'll do the 2 buttons here in a second. So now we have this column. I'll align it vertically, add a gap of M for spacing. Now everything's spaced out evenly, right? So now, the cool thing about Breakdance 2.0 is if you click on an element, what I hate is that you always have to go to the inspector on this side and try to find the div, right? So now when you click on the button, you hit Shift Escape and it goes a layer up automatically. So now with the new engine, I go horizontally, add a gap of M for spacing just to keep everything consistent. Breakdance gives you 2 button options. It gives you a primary under the global settings here. They give you 2 buttons. Like you can pre-design these 2 buttons however you want and use them all across your website.
Yeah.
If
The
you
kind of
want
shit I'm used to from bricks, actually. It's very convenient.
yeah, documentation. So if you don't want to use their button, they give you some options here. So if I want to use a text, I can do a text. I can change all the settings. I can add my arrow if I want. There's a couple different presets they can give you. What I would do is click on the div and then align everything vertically. So now you have the button. Let's see, this one would be get started or something. Get started. So now on the front end, let me see here. I need to go to this page here. Give me 1 second. Oops.
I'll be the guy to ask the question. So you did all that technically at the ID level?
Well,
All the styling?
all the styling is default from Breakdance. So then if you want to stylize it a different thing, you should start adding classes or creating a preset.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
all this is default from Breakdance. So all the typography features, Headspin manages the sizes, manages the colors, manages more of the aesthetic things. But all these default, whenever you add a text, Breakdance gives you like an offering that says, hey, this is the color and the size we'll give you for an H1, right? Also,
Right.
we need to change this to an H1. And then you add the tag of H1. So all this is out of the box. I think 80%, besides the gapping, it's just technically Breakdance. So out of the box, you can build this without having Headspin installed. You can build exactly the same thing. But instead of adding the variable, you will just add 30 pixels.
Right.
So it'll give you that. I just use Headspin just to keep everything manageable and keep that going. But on the front end, let me save this. But on the front end, this is how it would look on the front end. The cool thing about, I just don't want to be like self-promoting Headspin all day, but you can adjust all the width of the page. You can do all that within Headspin itself. But as you can tell, it let me see here. Oh, I got rid of postmark. Let me go over here. So I would adjust maybe, I don't like how the logo is a little bit out. Well, I guess the P lines up. It's a little bit, the little flag kind of goes outside of the spacing of the website. I would consider more of this more.
That
more
triggered
maybe-
my OCD as well.
Yeah. Stuff like that bothers me. I wish it was pushed over, but hey, I can't do that. But that's how we do the header. And then here on this column, we have a couple different options. What I would do first is create a div to add all of my, so remember, I'm not using any classes yet. You can start using classes here. And at this point, if you want, I usually make the width of this container 100%. And the reason being is because I realize my mind goes to more of a Photoshop, like how many layers do I need? So I have a div here on, and I will call this the love wall. I'm not putting a class into it or adding a stylized. This is more just for the builder itself. It kind of
Just a label.
label, yeah. So then at this point, I would add a card. I would add another div to create the actual cards themselves. And then
I'll
at
be right
this
back.
point, I would make it 100%. You have a couple options here. Either use two divs and then create the gap, or you can just use a column again and then do 2/3. And then here, I would add an image, which would be this little guy, which don't judge the what. I just took a screenshot of it because I couldn't bring in I don't have that cool feature like you guys can just copy and paste in the code, so I have to do it this way. And then I will use the dog as the character or as the person, right? So using the image element, I will say I think he used 40. I would use 50. But I would change the aspect ratio to 1:1 to make it more of a square, and then make the object fit cover. Scroll down here to the border radius, and then make this either 100 pixels to make it round, or use our variable system and then make it a pill. So then you can always change it on the background. And then I can always bring in this column a little bit in. And then obviously here I would align everything to the center. And then on the actual dog or the person, I would actually to do absolute positioning on this. So there's a couple different layers within breakdance. It's kind of like the basic version and then the advanced version where you have full control of the element. And I know everybody hates
How many pop-ups is that? One, two,
1, 2,
Jesus.
3, 4. Everyone hates it, but 2.0. So once you have once you have it styled, you can actually see everything. If you hit Command I, you can actually see everything you've stylized with it. So you can always go back on the back end, or you can actually was it Shift F, and you can actually start typing in what you want, like position. So it's really
that's dope.
it's
Yeah.
really keyboard centric. I'm still learning it. They're still in beta, so I'm getting comfortable with just going to that. But
And just while we're on that, go ahead and type CSS too. Show that.
oh yeah. So what I would do is CLL. Excuse me. CAL goes to class, so you can start adding classes into breakdance. So if you want to call this image, let's say we'll call this, what was it, like love image avatar. I can't spell. Well, I can't spell today. Who cares? But it gives you a visual representation of what you can do. So all those things I added inside, I guess you can actually say you're styling at the ID level. I can convert that into a class and repurpose that over and over and over and over. So you can do it that way as well. So so now you have this. Let me go here.
And then I got one more quick one, just because
Okay,
it's
go
kind of
ahead.
related. Was the can you change the shortcut keys in breakdance?
No, you can't.
Okay.
So so now at the ID level, you can do a couple of things. And breakdance introduce presets, so you can create a preset and call it love card. You can call it the love card and edit the entire. Oh, I didn't do it right. Hold on. Did I do it
I'm
right?
gonna get myself a love card and put it in my wallet. Just to always have it.
Now my phone is ringing. Okay, so you can add a preset is very close to an ID. ID It's just a visual builder of the class itself, if that makes sense. And then what I would do is add a white or use my neutral white, right? Then I would do on my container, I would add padding. Let's do M. And then I apply it to all. So now I officially created the card itself as a preset that I can use over and over whenever I have a div. I can just slap that preset on it, and all these changes happen to that card. I'll show you in a second.
Is a preset though like kind of like a styling template? Because
Yes.
it's not a class.
Correct.
So like you put it on and then you can make an edit or two, and then that didn't change the actual preset.
Well, no, you can yeah. So the only caveat with the preset is that you can create the preset, use it. For example, let's say in this scenario, this preset's white, right? I can clone the preset and then change the color of it on a different card. So
Right.
and
An
then create
instance
a
of
new
it.
preset. Yeah, the instant of it.
Yeah.
So it's breakdance version of a class, but I think it's kind of the way I pictured it in my mind. It's an introduction to classes because the target audience for breakdance it's the elementors, right? The divvies, people that don't understand classes who when they watch like Kevin, which I'm a big fan, Inner Circle guy, he's super advanced and a lot of people get lost. So in my mind, understanding like the heart behind breakdance is the gap, right? It's the people it's the people that coming from the Elementor who understand presets. You can get started with breakdance and then slowly start building your skill set until you start using classes. It's how I like to imagine. I'm just speaking on myself. Don't quote me or don't. If anything bad happens from this live, blame Renato. But I think that's the concept behind breakdances, right? It's like stepping stones. You use a preset, you can do everything. A class can do everything a preset can do. It's just like a learning. It's a mental thing, right? It's a lot easier for someone to understand the concept of a preset coming from a Divi and a mentor than it would be a class.
Ruben.
So, yes, sir.
So I might be repeating a question, or I might be getting into something that's already been discussed here. But I watched your videos about presets and classes in breakdance,
Yep.
and I'm not yet fully understanding the difference. Like, if I can set a preset for an element and then just design it the way I want it, and then just reuse it with the preset, then what's the difference to using a class for the same thing?
In my honest opinion, there isn't much difference. I think it's more of a mental block for people to understand the world of presets and then the world of classes. So I think there's a huge learning curve mentally, I feel, when it comes to the classes, right? Because you get not Kevin, inner circle Kevin, but the other Kevin, he goes into a 45-minute CSS tutorial and you're confused. You're like, I know CSS and I'm confused. So
Kevin Paul, right?
Kevin Paul, yeah. And I love Kevin Paul's content. But watching him 45 minutes on classes, I think it's just a mental gap or a mental like stepping stone into the world of classes and becoming more advanced versus it being fundamentally different, right?
One last question, because I think it ties it together though. Are you saying that you can't visually style classes in breakdance?
Yeah. Hold on. I'll do something.
Okay.
No, it's the same concept. That's what I'm saying. It's the same concept.
You can.
No, yeah, I get it.
You can, yeah.
Okay.
So for example, I'm gonna add a div here, and then type in crap. You hit back too many times. That's what happens. You type in CLA, it goes with the class, and I'm gonna call this Ruben's love card. Right. So you create the love card, and then you can visually design it the same way. You can go in here, change the background, make it yellow. So I think this is more of a mental idea, right, of what a class is and what a preset is. So you can do the same thing. So now whenever you create a new div, so let's say here, right, you add a new div, type in CLA, and then you can actually select Ruben Love Card, and it applies all the colors and what you did, the styling to it. And it's a visual representation on the right-hand side on their panel. So you can add custom CSS, you can add effects, you can add border, spacing, typography, the size of it. If you want this to be 300 pixels width, you can do that.
So with it's interesting because when you look at Oxygen, it had such a reputation for extremely steep learning curve. And I think to your point, that's because people came in not even knowing what a CSS class is. I mean, shout out to your boy on live streams, not understanding the difference between, a class and an ID targeting via CSS manually. But eventually you learn and you grow and you get better at it. And so it's interesting to see, kind of I don't mean obfuscation in a negative way, but the fact that, there is some abstraction between the buttons and the options versus what's actually taking place under the hood, like the HTML and the CSS. My question though is, with this presets thing, when I hear preset, I sort of envision the concept of a component, like a React component, or what Quickly had was real components. WordPress core is getting what is essentially true components too, with pattern overrides in 6.6, which are going to be just incredible. So how close is this presets function to, a component, if that's
I think the presets. So the other, I guess the component aspect, if I'm understanding your question, to me, it's more of the breakdance's global block feature.
Oh, okay.
So the global block feature it's the magic area where you can get this card. Where's it at? This card, and then make it loopable. So currently at this state, I can't dynamically pull any data into this.
Okay.
So I would click this card, for example, click this card, copy it. I just hit Command C, call this love card, this has nothing to do with the styling. There's just or with any IDs or
Okay.
anything. So now bring this back into breakdance.
So you have to build your loop items elsewhere, like in
Exactly,
like
yeah,
in
yeah.
Elementor. Yeah.
Exactly. So now I have to style it here. Even though it looks wonky, it's gonna be when I bring it back in, it will be like this.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
So this to me would be more of the global patterns, components, things you can reuse. And then at this point, pretty much like Oxygen, you can add dynamic data wherever you want. Text, post tape, name titles, meta box, ACF. It doesn't matter.
So in this screen, like let's say you had this I forget the word you called it, global block. Let's say you had this in 15 spots around your site and you came in and like added a new button. Does it update to all those instances of that block?
Yes, sir.
Oh, dope. Okay, so it is a
Yeah.
component.
So yeah, it's pretty much our global version of global patterns. And then what makes this, I think, in my opinion, super powerful. So I'll save this here. Let me change the. Let me see if I can.
That's a really interesting way to think about that, because that's obviously not how Bricks works. Is how Jonathan, with generate blocks? If you were gonna build a card and loop it, do you build the card right there in the page, and then just loop it right there?
Yeah.
Or do you have?
There's a query
So it's
loop
like
block,
Bricks.
just like an Oxygen repeater,
Okay.
or like
So it's-
just like in Bricks, you enable query loop and build it right there.
Yeah.
So now, for example, here I just recreated this block inside of the global block builder. So now you can close this out, go on the front end. And then now here on the website, you just go to an element called, I think the loop post loop builder. Then you select the block. So then at that point, you can set all the query. You can customize what data do you want to pull, what information, XYZ.
I know we're in the weeds here, but this is like a really important concept. I think, though, this approach versus the Bricks thing, I don't really think one's right, wrong, whatever. I don't really have an opinion there. But there's these words, and there's templates, and there's components. What that is, that's not a component. That's more of a template. Because a component, like how they're doing it now in Core, you can have, like, they're calling it patterns and partially synced patterns and all that. But then that's like you take the component, you make an instance of it, you change certain things. And then, Jonathan, like you said, you go back to that main place and you add a button, and it makes it elsewhere. Like, that does work here. But I think there's like a super small distinction. I'm not saying one way is right or wrong. I wish all the tools had all of the things, though, because I don't know. I come from the Elementor world, and I know this is very similar to what I experienced. So,
Yeah, so I think that's you are the target audience, right? So if you were to come from like an Elementor to breakdance, it's a lot easier for you to conceptually understand what's happening, and you don't have divception, right? You don't have all those 1,000 different divs inside of this. It's clean front end, so you get the benefit of understanding what to do a lot easier, and you get the benefit of creating a very optimal website from the start.
Just speaking of components, so slightly on a tangent, but if like I started using Figma like a year ago, give or take, but more than that, and they have components in there, of course. So that's sort of how I learned to actually use and really appreciate components. So I'm really glad this is coming to the WordPress world in one way or another. But yeah, I did, like from your video, I did get the impression that presets sort of have componenty kind of features. Like they're sort of close to components, but not exactly like components. Like I saw some stuff that you showed off, where I'm like, this feels like a component almost.
Yeah.
I think people have. Sorry, I was just going to say, I think people have a difficult time like understanding what a component is and why it's so powerful. Like the fact that you can change the HTML structure of it. Like in Generate Press right now, Generate Blocks, if I created a pattern and attached global styles to it, if I added it to 10 different places and suddenly I wanted to go reorder the HTML or add a new button, you'd have to go do it to each one of those because they can't have unique content. But with that function coming in Core, I could have a hero section that applies to every page. And then if I wanted to, delete the image block, and then they all have unique content. I delete the image block or add a new button or whatever, and it updates just from one screen to all those instances of that component. it's actually quite hard to, as I'm saying this, it's actually quite hard to really articulate what it can
It
do.
is. It is.
Right.
It is.
It is.
Because
That's why
like
it's so difficult.
Yeah.
Ruben, like, what do you have? Are those looped right there? Are those templates, or
Oh, no, those
are those
aren't.
still?
They're just
Those are
static.
still the divs. Because if you had that in there, if you had 3 looped, I don't know, what'd you say, global blocks they're called?
Yeah.
If you had 3 looped global blocks there, and then you went back to the global block and you said, "Hey," client says, "Hey, I just want a button in like one of them." You can't do that, right? Because you have to go back to the global block. You put a button in, and buttons would be everywhere, which is nice in one way. But yeah, so like a component is different, right? Component is like you have kind of that component, you put it in, you can loop it and everything like that, and then it has each instance of the component has the global properties, but you could also change the instance of that with like a button. If I'm understanding that correctly. Where
Yeah, you assign
the overrides, the
Right.
core overrides. Yeah.
It's
interesting.
If I add a button to the actual global block, it's going to add the button everywhere. So I have to make sure
Right.
it's intentional. Like if it's a card to a service, make sure it links all the service cards linked to the service. Like, well, in this case, for example, it links to Twitter, right? So I will put I'll wrap this in a wrapper with a link wrapper, and then dynamically add the link into ACF or MetaBox, and then that every time I create a card, it naturally pulls in the information and the link as well.
Yeah, Elijah just made a really good comment there. You could theoretically tailor a global block to the context using conditions, but it's still a single source of truth. Yeah, so I've definitely finagled that before my Jet Engine Elementor days. So yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of power there. I'm excited as all these tools continue to evolve because it's gonna be sick. Sweet.
I don't want you to get too caught up in the weeds. I want to see more breakdance building stuff.
Yeah, so I have, so in this instant here, let me delete these. So the cool thing about breakdance is Command D, you duplicate it twice.
Sick.
If you're not gonna pull in the data dynamically, right? And then you'll just limit the dynamic data to 3. I would add at the ID level, right? So it's all relative. So I would do here, change the alignment vertically, and then add a gap. So let's say add a gap of 30. So now everything is gap 30. Here on this side, I just use their new engine, their layout engine, just to align everything to the left and then center everything based on the size of the right, on the right side. So if I come in here and add a 4th one, it's going to dynamically center it to whatever's on the left. So then I think that's, and then this is how it looks on the front end here. So that's how it will look on the front end. So I added the border radius to the class. And then, so for example, here, I added a preset. So I can click edit and then actually change the color of the preset, and it changes all across each one if I wanted to. So what you would have to do is technically add a color preset as well, or a text. So I will call this, we'll call this love card heading, or this heading doesn't matter. So you can create a preset on, I don't know why I can't. Well, I guess you can't because you would have to use their typography preset down here at the bottom. Or you can add a class as well. So let's add a class. Call this love card heading. And then when you edit the class, when you edit the class, you can actually go in here and change the color of what you want it to be. So let's say I want it black. Let's just make something ugly. Let's do this this pink. Now you go into each one. You have to go to each one and add the love card heading.
Can I just say it's so it throws me off like crazy that the interface is light. It's a light interface. I'm like my brain is just going, he's not using a page builder. What is he doing?
Yeah, hold on. I'll change that for you. Give me 1 second. Here's in the preferences. I'm the only person that uses white mode.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Oh, now it makes sense to me.
Yeah. Everyone makes fun
way
of me
better
for
now.
white mode. But so I think the mechanically what someone, like for example, like I've built websites in Oxygen and Bricks, adding classes, it's easier with 2.0, but it's still not intuitive. Do you know what I mean? I wish if you clicked on an element, it would be here. Like I can add a class here versus I have to type CLA and then manually add it because it goes,
Yeah.
or have to imagine if you add a text here and then you have to click the gear, click advanced, they click here. So it's 3 clicks.
Yeah, it's the same way with Elementor when I was using it. Yeah, it's like just different. It's like not front and center like you said. It's not really the target.
But even the design presets, it's still a click away. Like you said, the click, the design, then you add it, right? So it's still like a 2-click variation. Well, technically, but even when you type, it's still a 4-click. Then CLA for class is still 3 clicks, so you're not getting rid of the clicks. You're just typing versus using your mouse.
So I've been meaning to get back to that, like CLA. So you said earlier on that breakdance is very keyboard friendly, which first of all I think is awesome because I love keyboard shortcuts. They make life so easy. And so you type CLA, like how? Like that part I kind of missed.
You just type it, yeah. So
just let's type it while you're not in a field.
No. So you can click on, like, for example, the heading, type in CLA, and then it automatically takes you to the class system within Breakdance, and then you can type in, if you want to name it something, you can.
Gotcha.
So let's call this like heading Ruben. Then you just create it.
Just what confuses me is normally like you would use a keyboard, like you would use a combination like control something, but CLA is like three letters in a row that you type.
Yeah.
To bring up that dialogue.
And also I think CSS brings you to the CSS, be able to add your own CSS into this section, So, for example, to create these moving and to animate the little hearts that's on here, on Postmark, the little hearts, you would just use the selector,
So it literally is like that if you, like, as long as you're not in a text field or anything, just typing letters in a row will bring you to different parts of the builder.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. It's cool.
So that's kind of like, and then you just adjust the size of, so what I would do here is at the column level, you can adjust the size there. You would have to go to the actual card itself. Actually, I need to wrap all these into a div, so I'll add a div here. What I would do is get those in there. The size would be a little bit off. I need to get rid of all this. I don't know why it's off. Oh, it became 50% now. So just imagine that. And then at this point, I forgot what I was trying to do. Oh, change the size of the card. So then I'll just overall use the wrapper that goes between all the cards and to make that, I think it's 480 if I remember correctly. It's 480. Excuse me. This one here, the container here would be 480 pixels. So they all get adjusted, right? They're all a little smaller. And this is my fault. I'll just move these randomly. So now the cards are a little bit more aligned to be more.
Now you just manually moved shit around in 3 different cards.
Yeah. Don't do what I'm doing.
Don't look at the man behind the curtain.
Yeah. So don't do what I'm
doing.
Don't do as I do.
Just do as I say.
Just showing you very quickly because we got to move on.
Gotcha.
But in the ideal world, you would just set up this correctly,
right,
and then create the cards a little bit smaller. Right. So now the cards would be a little bit smaller, little fatter, but more aligned to what they have it here. I think it's 480 pixels if I inspect it correctly.
Yeah.
If you want to be pixel perfect, right? So if you don't care, you just undo all this mess. And Z lets you undo everything.
Another thing I might have missed, does Bricks have multi-select? Not Bricks, Breakdance.
I think so. Hold on. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't even know. So let me collapse this. No, actually, you can't. I'm clicking the
something that more. I think Divi has it. It's one of the few builders that actually do.
So that's the header. That's the header, and then that's the Like that's the header, and then that's the hero section of the website. And then we can go maybe get some questions in. There's
I
any
have a
questions.
comment because this is important. That I love the right click that you guys did in Headspin. I love that ACSS has that plaster integration that has that right click that you just have access to all the variables. So if there's any people that want to build another page builder, definitely add that.
Yeah. So that's well, the reason why the Copilot's important is just to help you consistently have variables instead of using magic numbers, right? I think that's what I wanted when I created Headspin is to keep everything simplified, and then I could just use M, gap M, and leave it alone. I don't have to think. I want to do less thinking and more designing.
That's funny because I want to do less designing and more nuts and bolts, slapping shit around on the page.
Yeah.
Same.
I feel like with every build that I do, I want to challenge myself to do something I didn't do before, and I just want to learn it.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I just come up with shit. Like when I'm in Figma, I come up with something that I'm like, I don't know how to build this. So that's why I'm going to do it in Figma, and then I'm going to have to figure out how to make it.
Yeah, I'm such a shit designer. It's terrible.
So I'm just gonna cut in here real quick.
Okay.
First of all, just looking at the clock, we got 1 hour 46 minutes. Got 47 people watching, so I don't care about going longer. And as long as you guys have time. One thing though, I have a bit of a ticking time bomb situation because my wife and my brother-in-law brought the kid home. The kid fell asleep on the way, so she's sleeping right now. And my wife's gone, so if she wakes up, she might go nuts, and I honestly don't know what's going to happen then. So this might really fuck with the stream. I really don't know.
This is real life. This is real life, people.
This is real life right there. I'm really glad we got this far into the stream. I personally think we're getting a shitload of value here. This is fantastic. I like the way this is going. I expected that we would be able to build more, but the fact that we have these conversations and end up building less, even if it's just this one section that we're going to do today, I think the value here is massive. So I'm really glad we're working this way and not, trying to sort of breeze through the website and getting more sections in. This is going quite well. I love the chat. There's lots of really interesting comments here, lots of really interesting conversations going on at the same time. So great stuff. And if it gets ended in a moment, I'm really sorry. But we'll figure it. We'll burn that bridge when we get to it.
Ruben, I was curious, how much time did you spend with Oxygen prior to jumping to breakdance?
Coming from Oxygen, it was about a year.
Okay.
So the marketing company I work for, we pumped out maybe 3 to 4 sites a week, and it was 100% Divi. It was Divi all day, Divi, and then we slowly, right when I exit the company, it was Elementor. But my boss was always like, "Hey, try this new tool, Oxygen. Try this, try that, try this." So I tried Oxygen, which is super powerful, but it took me longer to build Oxygen's website. One, the learning curve, but two, I felt like it was more advanced compared to like a Divi, right? You just, all the elements within Divi, I feel like they're super easy. So it was about a year. And then the live stream happened with you. And then I said, fuck everyone else. I'm going to breakdance.
Just like I said, sayonara, I'm going that way.
I said, fuck breaks. I'm going to breakdance.
And then for me, it was like, I went to bricks at that point. So everybody's got that story. It's like, where were you in 9/11? It's the same story.
Yeah. Where were you on the live stream? Yeah. I just think coming from the world that I need to build websites faster.
Yeah.
And I've done 6 years of that, like building 3 to 4 sites a week, cookie cutter sites, but I needed to pump them out for clients and my boss, right? You got to get these 4 sites out this week by Friday. Breakdance, I naturally gravitate toward breakdance because it just felt easier. I don't know how to explain it. Like even I have a lifetime license to bricks, but it just feels like everything's harder. Like I don't know how to explain it.
I totally agree, dude. I really feel like the Oxygen and bricks ecosystem overcomplicate the vast majority of the websites that people are building, and then you have to add in tools to reverse that complication. And that's why, seeing breakdance in action is pretty cool. I could see why it's appealing to people. And then obviously on the block side, it's like you're removing a large degree of that learning curve and the overcomplication. Like I think that these tools, I struggle to say this because it hurts my heart, but I mean, I see why people are using this.
Same here. I wouldn't, but I see why.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I wonder, like, from my own perspective, had I not been using Oxygen for 5 straight years, would I have made the jump to breakdance? Maybe, because before Oxygen, I was using WP Bakery and Divi. So they would have been the more, probably smooth transition into the breakdance world. But having spent 5 years building over-engineered sites with Oxygen, and to be fair, I'm not criticizing the over-engineering aspect. Some people want that nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
But to your point, Ruben, like, I'm building sites for clients that they don't need that level of complexity and time spent. Like it's a Joe the plumber. Like homie needs his website live to index in Google. Like that's priority number one.
Exactly.
Not pushing pixels around. So
Can we talk about that for a quick second though? Because I think it's important because we got professionals. We talked about it a little bit with Kevin and Brian, and it's a conversation that I don't think when we talk about these page building tools, whether page builder core, whatever, it doesn't come up enough. Like prefacing, like what types of clients and what, not necessarily prices specifically, but what kind of like budget are we talking for these different types of tools? Because you talk to people at like 10 up and they're making $1 million sites for companies that have like full blown marketing departments. They need everything custom and they're going to be in the site doing all the certain stuff. So like, just if you guys want to talk a little bit about some of that, and like, if you build client sites, are your clients in the websites? That's a huge important question, right? Because that changes the game entirely. Just a couple of those. I don't know. You guys have any thoughts?
I can talk about it if Jonathan has something to talk about. So in my world, I have 129 breakdance websites that are live under my belt. Out of those, 42 are active clients that I manage. So none of them, maybe 1 or 2 of them are a little bit more tech savvy. Like the guys that came from Elementor can go in there, maybe changing text too, but most of them just rely on me. I've never, from my experience, like I always tell people, like I'm a web developer, you are a roofer. Why are you touching the website? Why do you need to touch the website? That's why you have me, and that's why you pay me monthly to do that for you. So if you want to touch your website, have fun with it. I'm still going to charge you monthly. So I think that's my perspective is trust me to build your website and do it right with the proper semantics, HTML, and then you could go and have fun building roofs or being a plumber or whatever you want to do.
Yeah. What would you say, Jonathan?
yeah, it's actually really interesting because I'm on the polar opposite end of that spectrum. I have very few clients, but that's because typically the sites are a lot more in depth. I find myself doing a lot of like kind of private membership portal type websites or like course type stuff for clients. So I have very few clients. I have like 20 total, and probably like 12 to 15 of them are blocks, and the rest are still legacy Oxygen sites. So for me, it's about the kind of speed and how quick I can build these things, because a lot of times there's tons of different pages and templates and conditions and stuff. And that's an interesting thing about core, with block visibility as the conditions plugin. I haven't really lost anything in terms of capability in that aspect, but I can pretty much install generate press like I showed you, remove the sidebars, and I'm already off to the races. So it's interesting. We both kind of need the speed aspect, but the quantity of stuff you're churning out is 10x what I'm doing. And ultimately, the thing that's so interesting is we get to exactly the same point. It's like, regardless of the tools, I could probably hop in breakdance and build what I need to. Likewise, you could too in blocks. Maybe not as efficiently the first couple of go rounds, but eventually we're going to get the same thing done.
Okay, real quick from my side. I'm going to pop out for a little bit. If I come back in 30 minutes and it's just 4 empty chairs there and no one watching, then I'll just click on end broadcast.
We can't change the thing. So should we is Ruben going to continue, or should we flip to Jonathan, or we just want to talk? I mean,
all right,
we should probably figure that out.
Yeah, we should. I think, I mean, we're at a point where both of these sections are pretty much well built out, right? So yeah, it's kind of shitty that I'm the guy who has control of all the like highlighted comments and shit. But it it probably makes most sense for while I'm gone for you guys to go through the chat, because I see so many interesting conversations going on here, and I have tagged a bunch of comments that I would like to highlight and talk about real quick.
I'm catching
But
some flack for
that's
my
something else.
my overcomplication comment.
Yeah,
Let's discuss it. It's good. Good topic.
keep talking, guys. You do have the chat in front of you, and I'll be back as quickly as
I
possible.
think that's
I think it's pretty chill out there. Like I heard her cry a little bit just now, but I think my brother-in-law is handling it, so I'll be there in a bit.
I think the struggle, I guess, from a page builder perspective, I think in my mind is I just don't want it to be hard. I don't know why. I just want it to be simple. I just need to get the site up and going. And I think the most people that use Elementor just want a site up, right? Or people that use Squarespace, Elementors, that's about 30, 40 million people that use those two services alone. Like they just want something simple. And what I love about Breakdance, yeah, it can be as simple as throwing a couple columns in, or it can be as advanced as you want it to be. Like there's no limitation to your creativity. For example, I showed Mark, I was able to create the little hearts popping up. I was able to create like the fade effect to have the cards moving with some simple keyframes and some transformations. So it can be simple or advanced. Like you choose. Do I need to get this why do I need to spend 8 or 40 hours on this 4-page web brochure website? I just got to get it up and going and then do what I can somatically and then make all the right tags and then let's get them on Google and make some money.
Jonathan, though, do you find that like what you were explaining there, are you with the clients that you have and the types of websites that you create? Because this is really it. I mean, again, we talk about the tools, but sometimes putting the cart before the horse. Like the websites that you're creating, are your clients in there all the time, as opposed to like Ruben, where he says like none of his clients are in there?
All of my clients have the ability to. Very few of them actually do. So even the ones that perceive the ability for them to get in there as, you know, a major selling point, which is quite often, they're like, oh yeah, sweet, I'm definitely going to do that. And then, you know, they don't touch it. Nothing changes in a month, despite just like Ruben, you know, there's a monthly service fee from my side for hosting and support and maintenance, which some take advantage of, you know, just like probably for most of us, probably 20% of them take up the vast majority of your time. And the other chunk you basically never hear from. But yeah, I mean, even these clients that, like I said, have these membership type websites, a lot of them are just interested in using the site for the functionality that's been built. They're not trying to get in the back end and change, you know, they're not rebuilding sections or adding new content. They just want to use the site. So yeah, I mean, it's like the vast majority of them don't, even though they say that they want to.
Well, and that actually is one of the reasons why like we chose Bricks, because, you know, clients, they say they're going to log in, they're going to update pages, they're going to make landing pages. So few end up doing that. So why not give the developers of the actual site the best tools to go quickly? And that's at least what we found. We had so many Divi sites before Bricks, and after switching to Bricks, it's like we can build so much faster, so much more scalably. And yeah, so I don't know. That's just the flip side from my perspective.
I had that the other day where a client was like, she wanted me to like create a page for her and prepare it, and then, you know, wanted to edit it herself. And I actually had built that website at a point where I myself was really new to Bricks, so I hadn't really been at a point yet where I could build them in a way that clients can also work with them. So I kind of made the page for her, and then I prepared it, and then I sent her an email saying, okay, are you ready for your tutorial? Like, we can do the tutorial. And I gave her a couple of times that I could work, and then I gave her an agenda of things that I think she needs to understand to do the editing. And the response was like, I don't want a tutorial, you do it. So, you know, that it works to just put, like, I just had a bunch of bullet points where it's like, you have to remember the slug, you have to remember the excerpt, you need to set this, you need to set the redirect URL. And she was like, yeah, fuck that.
Well, honestly, like, shout out to Kyle and the admin bar, Jonathan. I know you guys are great friends. Like that website owner's manual was like, when I learned about that, that's a brilliant method. And it's the same thing that Maddie's talking about right there. It's like you almost overwhelm them with the amount of shit that they would have to deal with. And then they just be like, oh, you're the expert. Okay, you do it for me. So like my thought process would be that there's certain instances, like with WooCommerce, with even courses and stuff like that, like there's certain times where like somebody in the business actually needs to handle the stuff. But if it's, posting a blog post once in a while, or, swapping out photos or changing headlines, then like how much emphasis do you guys put on in the build out process of making the website easier for the client to manage? Because I feel like that's a big thing that people say. It's like, oh, we're going to use Core or whatever because it's easier for a layperson to understand and maneuver. But then, the other side of it is like, are they going to use it anyway? Obviously this is too general, but I'm just trying to get your guys' opinions. I think it's valuable.
Well, so as it relates to Core or any product built in the block editor, Generate Blocks, Cadence, whatever, like you could realistically let somebody in there, and I find it's far easier for somebody to come in there and adjust a section or add an existing pattern to the page than it is when there's an abstraction like ACF fields. When there's just a static ACF field and there's no representation of what this will look like on the front end without saving, updating, going and looking at the front end, that to me was a trap I fell into very heavily with Oxygen, because it was like, I just simply cannot afford to let people in here. They'll screw this template up too badly. There's too many conditions. There's too many classes. Mm-hmm. And so then you're like, okay, well, I'll keep them out by giving them the series of ACF fields. And it works, in small cases, but then as things get more complex, you're like, okay, well, now I got to create conditions on the ACF fields. And, you start to build this like extra layer of complication on top of your tool, because you cannot let them in a product like Bricks or Oxygen realistically. But with blocks, it's like, you can let them in the pre-built patterns. You just drop them in. Like we already looked at, there's locking. They really can't screw it up that badly. The revisions are pretty good. You can go backwards. I think you can argue it either way though. Like how many people do let their clients into Bricks? A small,
hopefully none,
portion, I assume. And versus how many people are using the block editor? A shit ton. So the other thing too is like, you can also, it's not realistic for most people because it requires such a deep level of JS and PHP, but you can build your own custom blocks with kind of predefined functionalities. Like we saw Brian do that with the stream he did with Jamie. He was kind of talking about that. And that's cool. But then there's the other side of the trade-off. Like I was just speaking to my friend who's my favorite designer, and she said, yeah, our agency site was built by this guy, and it's cool, it uses blocks, but we can't change anything on it. And they were like talking about, they have a bunch of custom blocks exactly as their Figma design dictated, but now they're locked into what are essentially ACF fields, in the sidebar of the blocks. So I don't know. It's like any way you slice it, you're faced with a significant degree of trade-off.
Let's go through a couple of stuff that I've starred. Okay, hang on.
Let's see here.
Yeah, that was an important question, but it's now too late. Actually, it's not too late. You can still donate to Ruben, so I think we should.
Yeah, you can.
Lujan, thank you very much for popping in. Nice to see you. I love pods, only custom post up. Yeah, we quickly talked about pods at some point. So I like that there's really people in here that have been using it and enjoy it. Quite a bit of functionality, but it always sees that ACF is most supported by third-party plugins. That is very true. And yeah, I had the same, like I asked myself the same thing when I bought the ACPT license. Like I think ACPT is an underdog that's coming up and that I think is worth supporting, but I don't know how much third-party support there eventually will be for it, right? Or, other plugin support. And I guess it remains to be seen. Also, nice to see you, Josiah. Good to have you here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Why most people use ACF as a post promo. Yeah. You need to make more videos about pods. Sinan, just drop me a line on Facebook because I want to do that. If I find time.
Mushroom area.
Yeah, I like the okay. So this magic mushroom area. So if any builder starts putting in like a Super Mario Easter egg thing, where I just hop and I bring up a mushroom and then I eat the mushroom and then an area pops up, then I'm getting that builder. Just saying, I want that. Or just straight up magic mushrooms is fine, of course, as well. Those that dictate number of pixels don't get to be clients of mine. They never understand that the number of pixels change when using proper tools like clamp. Yes. Is generate FSE moving in a quickly direction? Jonathan, I know you answered that in the comments, but I think it's an interesting question to perhaps quickly recap.
Super quick recap. My understanding is that it will have a similar kind of philosophy in terms of it has a site editor all in kind of one screen, template engine, style book for, you don't have to go to the customizer anymore. But my understanding is it's not tied into the native like block theme implementation of FSE. So I don't know. I haven't actually been hands-on with it yet though. So it's all just kind of, summation on my side as far as what it's going to be. But if I had to guess, similar in concept, probably some different and better features and not reliant on core under the hood, if I had to guess.
Shameless product plug from Ruben. Yes. Shame on you. But this is seriously, like, just to reiterate that I know obviously Paul is joking here, and I think it was great that you showed off Headspin. It's also part of our core philosophy that, when people come on here and show off their workflows, we want them to not just show off like vanilla breakdance or vanilla builder, but whatever tools they use in there every day to get to where they want to go, right? So if somebody's using AT with bricks, then that's what we want to see. If somebody's using ACSS with bricks, then that's what we want to see. Is the BD menu independent from the WP menu? I think that was answered in the comments as well. I think actually Elijah answered that. But yes, from what I understand, it is.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Looking at the site, you're building writers, breakdance, wrap buttons with a div. I wasn't paying attention at that point, but this apparently was something that happened.
No. So here on this homepage, I wrapped the get started and the API documentation button within a div to make it horizontal.
Which is exactly what I did. Same thing.
So yeah. So that's if you don't wrap it in a div, it's going to be stacked.
Oh, they both have a wrapper around them. They don't have individual wrappers. They're in one wrapper, and you flex that.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Can you remap BD's hotkeys? No.
No, you can't.
But it's still. I was wondering the same thing. It's cool to have that. Actually, I freaked out a little when I saw in the bricks 1 point. Okay, I need to. Okay, this is it. I'll be back as soon as I can. So please keep talking.
Real life shit.
That. Yeah, real life shit.
But I'll show you here, for example, here in Breakdance, I added the heading, and you can just copy and paste. So I'll show you here really quick, Jonathan. I'll delete these really quick. So if I add it, yeah, it's our stream now. If you add a heading, it doesn't have the class attached to it, right? So if you just right click copy and you can paste the settings, now it has the class attached to it.
That's cool.
So you can just go in there after the fact. Usually what I do is I just build everything. I guess what I do is just go ahead and stylize it without worrying about headings or anything, and then just adjust everything afterwards. I don't know why I do that. Especially if I have a Figma file, I like to build the layout first, and then go back in there and adjust all the colors. But you can do that with the text. So you can copy the text here. It has a class attached to it, and then you paste it. Now it has a class. So if you forget to add the class somewhere and you realize you had it here, oh, okay, let me just copy it and just paste it down here. So yeah, you can still do it with CAL, but I just feel like this is a lot easier for me.
I saw Elijah, I think, left a comment that says Breakdance doesn't have IDs. Did I read that right? Like it doesn't really have IDs?
I don't think it has IDs. It's not like bricks where it creates an ID for the text, for example,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't have that ID. You can add a class to it. You can add your own class to it, but let me see what happens on the front end. Let's take a look at that, right? Here, so we go to the front end. Let's see what, I think it adds a generic breakdance. Yeah, it adds its own class here.
So interesting, because I recall a comment from Breakdance Oxygen Lewis. He said at some point, I don't remember where, probably in the Facebook group, about he wished that they had made Oxygen not ID stuff everything, and it seems like they took that particular learning and applied it to Breakdance.
So everything gets a class. It's just you can't technically target it, right? It doesn't allow you to, like an Oxygen or bricks, it doesn't allow you to select that and
Well, wait.
Make
a
it
minute,
I'm
though.
also noticing that's a div and not a p tag. Is that something you can set at the global level for all paragraph? Or
Maybe expand it. Is the P inside of that div?
oh yeah.
Oh no.
no.
I mean,
Weird.
bricks is the same. I think it's
But you don't have
it's a
you
div by
don't have that
default
option within Breakdance. It doesn't give you the option for
for semantic
the tag.
tags.
Yeah, it should be here. Like it should be
Is it
like-
in the next one? Is it in
No.
the what's it called? The
Yeah,
gear
I guess
one?
none of the elements in breakdance have that. Like you can't switch it from like
Tag.
Tag,
Which
here it is.
tag?
Yeah, oh, there you go.
Oh,
There
okay.
you go. See,
That's
see
a
how
little
hidden-
annoying,
see how
but
hidden that
it's cool.
is?
You could do it. This is. I mean, this just reminds me heavily of Elementor. I know that's what kind of a lot of the ads said, like at the very
Yeah.
beginning with Lewis too. But like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of interesting that it gives you it. Those did seem like randomly generated classes instead of IDs, right? Like those ones on the front end. So like you could, if you wanted to, though, you could target that somehow. I mean, but that's what
yeah.
you're doing when you're styling at the what we would say at the
technically,
idea level.
This selector would be
It's like a root
'cause you can-
selector.
Yeah, because you can do color red, right? So you can do that because technically targeting the class.
Yeah.
That's
But you just
specific-
wouldn't need to do that. You're just doing it all visually.
exactly. Or you can add the class here, or add a class or add a preset for that font, right? So you can go in here and then save as a preset and call this like red text. And it's technically like adding a class to it. So now you go down here, go to design, typography, and then choose your preset. Oh, I don't know why it didn't work. Oh, actually, I don't know why it didn't work. Well, I don't know why it didn't work this time. But technically, you should be able to add the text color here and it changes. I don't know why it didn't
Interesting.
change.
It's kind
But
of
that's how you do it. So you have a couple of different options. So you have the preset, you can do the class or the selector. But what I realize is this selector, oh, and I know why the preset doesn't copy the selector. So now when you go to,
Oh.
or it doesn't copy. So you have to actually manage your preset. Which is like all these extra steps, right? So now you go in here and you change the color within the panel itself. It doesn't bring over the class.
So just as a theoretical question, I guess for Mark, because you mentioned coming from the Elementor world, let's suppose you had jumped straight from Elementor to Breakdance, never having heard of Oxygen or Bricks. Does this feel like familiar and consistent enough that you would have been able to build the stuff that you wanted?
I had Breakdance as a recommendation from another colleague, and I used it for a little bit, but it wasn't at that point. I wasn't like ready to move from Elementor. And looking at this now, and still like managing Elementor legacy sites, but obviously being in Bricks more nowadays, I would say my quick depiction of what Breakdance is like Elementor, but way more control. I would say more control over the styling, because Elementor kind of like lagged there for a few years as far as like things they were doing. But there's so much similarity, it seems like. And I don't know the specific differences because I'm not up to date on both of them now. But to answer your question, yeah, this feels very familiar from like an Elementor jump, if that was the way that I would have gone. Because yeah, I had to relearn a lot of stuff in Bricks. I mean, I like the Bricks. I like the simplicity of everything shown here. Ruben's showing here. I I really like, the biggest thing for me, if we want to get into this type of chat, is, even with something like Generate Press, like I actually like the idea of being closer to core. I think that's a better decision, like just based off of pure, like almost like business in a way of WordPress. The likelihood of WordPress failing is way less likely than one of the other companies failing, right? Like we've already seen it. I'm not saying anybody's going to fail. I'm just saying pure probability wise. So if I was like putting all of my eggs into a basket, I would try to go closer to core. But obviously I haven't done that to this point. So kind of like double speaking there slightly. But I don't know. The cool thing about bricks is the last thing I'll say. The cool thing about bricks, in my opinion, is it was like, oh, this is like visually coding is kind of the way that I would put it. Like all of the options are in there. You have sections, you have containers, you have blocks. Like you didn't see any of that shit when you were in Elementor. Like, so that for me was just like a big, like, oh, I could actually visually code this website almost in a way rather than just like visually build it. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it. I'm just saying that that's what kind of drew me initially. But I'm always looking at other things. So I don't know if that answered any of your question, Jonathan, but
yeah, totally, dude. It's an interesting perspective because, like I said, I jumped straight from the WP Bakery to Oxygen World, and that was, you can imagine, that was like getting punched in the face the first time I opened Oxygen. It's like, oh my god, and then it's like, what, a class? I don't know what the hell that is. You'd never been exposed to that kind of thing in those earlier tools. So it's interesting because it's like it forces you to become a better developer, which is interesting. But then there's a diminishing return, I think, which is what I was kind of alluding to earlier with my complication comment. It's like the further and further along this development path you go, particularly as a WordPress, website builder, it's like diminishing returns versus like a JavaScript developer. They need BIM class methodologies and all those kinds of things as you're building something that has no scaffolding and no starting point. You're architecting everything from the ground up. Whereas, tools like Breakdance and Generate Blocks, they hold your hand quite a bit more, which is great. I think I would love to have some insight into if we could survey all the users of these tools, what is the average number of pages on the site? Like for bricks, I would argue, which is why I'm talking about the overcomplication thing, that the vast majority of people building sites in bricks are 10 sites or fewer. So it probably then means that you're overcomplicating it because you're talking about this idea of like scalability and maintainability, but on a site that if you had to go change the padding on every single section on every single page, you can do it in probably 30 minutes, Like, yes, of course, we know that you have classes, so it can be done in an instant. But like, that's where I'm getting to. It's like diminishing returns. It's just like over-engineering this thing that doesn't need to be that way. When to further drive this point home, when we look at the Postmark site, the stuff that they do doesn't make sense. Like on the real Postmark site, we didn't actually look at this. The banner where the logos are is actually one giant PNG that they've somehow sliced up with like JavaScript, and they're targeting it with the class.
Yeah, you mentioned that. That was
Show us, Ruben.
It doesn't actually, like, this is probably the worst possible way you can do this. There's a bunch of LIs on this page that are display none. Like, what are they doing here? But if you look at it, like, this is a real company with real revenue, probably more revenue than all of us here combined to a factor of 10. And yet they're doing this kind of stuff. Not that it's correct. I'm not sitting here arguing that it's okay to build it poorly, but the fact that it is being done this way, like, there's clearly some internal trade-off that they evaluated and decide, you know what, we're gonna do it this way.
It reminds me, I don't know if you guys know the meme of like the bell curve where one is like an idiot on the right, on the left side, and the really smart guy on the right side, and it's like just copy paste LOL. And it's like, that's what the two ends of the spectrum. In the middle is like over engineering and getting all your div wrappers and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of exaggerating there, but I think there's something to that.
Okay, so I'm glad to come back to 4 chairs with 4 people in them.
The bell curve.
There we go.
Yeah, look at that. Of those logos, they're using Fair, Webflow, Minecraft, and like, what was the other one? one password. They're using like 5 of those.
That's
There's
an,
like 15 of
that's
them.
an interesting
The
idea.
rest of
Why?
us play
Who's
none.
Whose
Who
idea is
thought of
that?
that?
Like, you need to consciously make a choice to do it that way.
Because they are like, we need to ship this last week.
100%, dude. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And for them, the other thing here is like, for them, a company like this, they probably have enough traffic and enough revenue where the difference between a site that changes the conversion rate by 0.1% has a meaningful impact. But it's like, if we're building standard, like, brochure based client websites, it's like they'd be lucky to get 100 visitors a month, like, not trying to be critical, but we also have to be realistic about what are you building. The tool is kind of irrelevant because for most of us, the goal is getting the website live and functional.
Yeah.
People are going to forgive some minor issues if they can get the thing that they're after, a restaurant menu or pricing for your company or contact details or whatever, So
Yeah. All right,
I'll quit my
let me see what
bitching.
else I have in here. At some point, Tudor Stan had an interesting thread going with a bunch of people where he's sort of concerned that bricks might go the way of the dodo at some point, because he was like, I've seen quickly go tits up. I know that Oxygen, or he was sort of concerned that Oxygen was also not doing that well anymore, and he's wondering if the same thing is about to happen to bricks. And there was a bunch of back and forth about that. So I don't know. I
don't think bricks. These are different people that run these 3 products. So they're,
Yeah.
I mean, sure, there's going to be some overlaps, but they're different people and they make different decisions. Clearly, look at the 3 of those founders. So
Exactly. And that's what D123 said. Good point. One always need to properly study the people business behind the tools they use. That is exactly why I use bricks. So,
I think the math there is different for me when I look at that. It's like I would probably hang out with Thomas from Bricks and have a great time, just as I would with Tom from Generate Press. But if I'm evaluating it from that standpoint, my basis is going to be more on the proven track record or long-term stability. I look at Generate Press has, 600,000 active installs, which is like over 10 times any of the other, the common builders in our circles, not compared to Elementor. Don't actually know how many installs Beaver Builder has off the top of my head, but I think Bricks has like 35,000 or something on built with.
Yeah.
So it's like we're talking orders of magnitude different in terms of backwards compatibility, like stability. What does Thomas need from a financial perspective? It might be different than a Tom from Generate Press. The decisions they make are going to be different accordingly, and the types of users that are using it are completely different. So in some ways, it's comparing apples to oranges. But the interesting thing is that at the end of the day, we can all build exactly the same shit. That's what's like. You get to the exact same endpoint.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So looking at the themes directory in WordPress, and also like if you go into WordPress backend and just click on themes, you'll always see Generate Press on the first page, among the top 10. So, it's even more impressive that Bricks got to where it is, and also other, because Bricks is a theme, but obviously it doesn't show up in the themes on WordPress.org, because it's just a tool that you buy. And still, it's gotten that successful. That is really impressive, I think.
Well, and it's a testament to Oxygen too. At the end of the day, like there's no bricks without Oxygen, really.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Yeah, it's really amazing time to have page builders.
Yeah.
It's the most actively developed full page builder for developers. Last night I gave a project to a Webflow guy who was able to learn bricks in a few hours. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's basically Webflow for WordPress, and I feel that Oxygen really did lay the groundwork for that, and then just Bricks came in and kind of cranked it up to 11. Sort of my impression. +1 for replacing people with adorable dogs. It's always true.
Yeah, your conversion rates go way up.
Yeah. 100%.
Does the drag resizing set units in pixels? Because does, so I switch in.
I think that was when
that
Ruben,
drag resizing. I think that's just generally a horrible idea.
It's percentages. Inside the columns itself, it's a percentage system. It's technically like dividing. It's like having two divs and having one div at 20%, the other one at 80%.
I just feel like I lost track of the times I accidentally resized stuff because I was accidentally clicking on that resizable border thing. So I always turn it off. Will not even consider breaks because of the person behind it. It's like politics; people forget the recent past. So yeah, there's definitely sentiments against who's behind which builders.
Well, it's risk aversion. Mark touched on that. You talked about from a purely business perspective, you would make the switch to go closer to core, but you have to look at the whole picture. Like for me, the risk aversion was my business completely fell out from underneath me in the space of 24 hours, So then it's like, okay, well, my risk assessment is now different than somebody who, like yourself, Ruben, that might have jumped to breakdance or Mark, switching to bricks. So, it's where are you comfortable putting your money? It's at some degree, we're building on the backs of people we don't know that should have our best interests at heart, but, we're using a tool that we don't control. So everything has a degree of risk. The only people that don't are probably the people who are building their own custom blocks from the ground up. And even then they're relying on somebody else's code to lay the groundwork for them. So yeah, I think to this comment on the screen, it's like there are some hurt feelings and some ruffled feathers. But it's a risk aversion. Where do you want to place your bet? And it's totally okay where you want to end
You always
up.
have to make that decision.
I mean, the reality is I'm building my channel around breakdance.
Yeah.
In 5 years, this conversation, let's say Lewis wakes up tomorrow and says, fuck breakdance, I'm done. I'm out.
again.
And then what do I do, right? So I was like in Jonathan's position, and then this new builder comes out that's better than breakdance. So I'm just, you know what I mean? So you're just this mindset of, hey, enjoy the product while it's here. Get better at becoming a better web developer. Like take courses, get part of Kevin's inner circle, and then learn the fundamentals of websites, which you can take to every builder.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, I think 80% of every page builder, even everyone has a section, everyone has a div, everyone has, the fundamentals are always there. It's just the implementation. How do we get them on the screen? That's a little bit different. So I just think the idea in 5 years, like I said, breakdance is over, and what do I do?
So Dan says, who knows if a solar flare hits tomorrow, we're all cooked.
Yeah,
so.
we're all done. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So I think the idea is enjoying what I have now and finding that it's a lot easier for me to build websites faster for my clients. And in 5 years, what if a new product comes out that's better than breakdance? What do I do? Right? So
and there almost certainly will be. The ecosystem moves so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my faith isn't in Lewis. My faith is in myself to build better websites. I just want to build them faster, to build my business faster, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's my goal. Is I want to build websites faster for myself, and I find a tool that allows me to do that. So if you find Bricks allows you to do that, just use it.
Yeah.
And one day Bricks or breakdance may not exist anymore, and then we're off to the next tool.
It is like that.
Absolutely.
That was a beautiful summary, dude. I have a tier.
There's a lot to be said for personal.
A single tier.
I'm just bullshitting. Go
on. Just thinking of that whole, like, where does this leave us? Where does that leave us? I've always believed in, well, I guess what's known as personal branding. Like, if people know my face and my hat, then, that's a good position to be in, because, I'm going to have people that like me, hopefully. And then if I end up doing something else, I mean, Mark switched from Elementor to Bricks, and that's kind of how I discovered Mark. He was like, he made a video. Here's why I'm going to Bricks, and I'm like, interesting, and I clicked on it. But I'm sure like people knew him before then, right? Like, Mark, you have 3K. You had, like, now you have 3.5 or something subscribers, and I'm sure you had easily 3K before you switched to Bricks, right? And people know you as being Mark, and that's something that no one's going to take away from you. So. Yeah. I think that's something very important. Also, when we have these discussions about, is AI going to replace us as developers and designers, and is it going to take our jobs? But my clients
Framer almost did.
Sorry,
Framer almost did. It was all over YouTube for like 4 months.
Yeah, But I'm thinking like my clients work with me because I'm me.
Yeah.
They like working with me. So that's something that we shouldn't discount human nature, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and in an increasingly AI-filled world, it's important to be an actual human and be imperfect and show who you are. So, I mean, case in point, all the mistakes on all my videos and things like that, but whatever.
So breakdance is a stepping stone to a proper builder. It's just this little bit of snark thrown in there.
Who's
Because
that?
we were talking about
get him out of here. Whoever said that, get him out of here.
Leave breakdance alone.
Leave breakdance alone.
Leave breakdance alone.
Get that fool out of here.
Not a fan of changing tech terms because non-educated people, you should be educating them. Dumb presets. So that's
how I feel about row, stack, and group.
Yeah. It's nice, but I'll keep sticking to bricks after this. Feels like an Elementor reloaded and going away from Elementor. So yeah, I saw a couple of sentiments like that. I kind of feel the same way. But
Elementor is the white whale that every developer of Page Builder wants to slay.
Yeah,
it's gonna be pretty hard. It's pretty big.
Yeah. Does breakdance add a section tag easily or automatically?
Oh, let's find out here. It's whenever I go live, I forget everything.
Can we with this comment? Can we talk about one of Nick Ark's comments too? Because it was, I don't know where it was, but he was talking about like how much do you guys care about like semantically well coded websites and stuff like that? How important is it to make sure a site is built with the right semantics, that it follows best practices? Is speed of building more important? What does it mean to be excellent in web development? It was like 35 minutes ago, if you can find it or whatever. But like, I mean, I don't know. I'm mixed on this because, I started watching Kevin's content. I'm like, damn, I need to be doing way better at this shit. And then, you continue to look at it and you're like, well, there's arguments for both sides, because then it's just like build fast, build like good and structural. But at the same point, like I feel like there's got to be a middle ground. And I don't feel like I've fully found that yet, between like being done and being like semantically perfect.
I don't have a section tag.
But save it.
It answers that question.
Yeah.
Get him out of here.
Get him out of here. You're talking shit. Get out of here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just dropped his ass.
Block him. Fuck him. Block him. I didn't wear my shirt I made. I didn't want to offend Kevin.
Oh, the fuck Kevin shirt. Yeah.
Jesus.
It's gonna show up in the Ruben store. But yeah.
But I mean, how important is it to build with the right semantics? Like, it's important. You should be doing that for sure.
Elijah said sections are default to sections. Like,
that's what I thought. Yeah.
There's not a tag.
Yeah.
You don't have to add a tag.
Makes sense.
You do have to add the tag for typography, though. You got to make it a P tag. I wish that was automatic.
Yeah, because I mean, there's other comments too about like the accessibility side of things, and I would hope that most builders are kind of doing that all by default. I'm not speaking to any specific builders here. I'm just talking in general, but that's where it starts. That's where it seems like it starts to lead. It's like, oh, you should build good code so it's fast. It's like, okay, whatever, so it's fast. And then it's like, oh, well, accessibility. It's like, okay, maybe I should care about that. And then it's like, oh, for indexing, so Google, doesn't have to, like, if you have like a shit ton of divs versus like the same website with half the divs, it's like Google's processing power to index that even is going to be less, like possibly. So I don't know, just like those types of arguments are just very interesting to kind of see if there's a middle ground with all that.
I wholeheartedly agree. And Elijah said it in chat. He said, our tool should be doing the semantic heavy lifting for us. 100% agreed. And I mentioned this earlier on, but GeneratePress as the theme handles so much of that for you. Things like header and nav tags, article tags, main, wrapping all of your content. And then the containers actually default to div, but you can change them to section, but then simple stuff, making sure your headings are H1, H2, H3 properly laid out and paragraphs. Like, it's really not that hard when you think about it, but the benefit is massive for even things like for non-accessible users. If you have a table of contents that automatically follows your heading levels, like that benefits us, benefits any accessible user using a screen reader. It's just so important, and relying on the tool to help you with that from a foundational perspective is so nice. I mean, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but in bricks, you would need to have an outer wrapper that you set as a main in your template, right? And then you gotta set each of your individual. No,
No, I don't think so.
Not the outer
I never
one.
set a main.
There's
at
a
all.
section. There's a section. There's a container. There's a block. There's a div.
Yeah, I mean, you have,
And there's no. I don't think there's a main or anything.
it has a builder
think
for a
that's already
header
there.
and a builder for a footer, and then the main content is just, if you just open with bricks, then you're building the main content.
I think it's just added in the background or something.
Yeah, and I think it just puts it in there. It just puts the main for you,
Yeah,
and
mains
then
are
okay.
you get to build whatever you want in there.
cool. All right, well that's good.
Yeah, mains are
But like
automatic.
the other day, like I needed to build a sidebar in Gutenberg for a client, and like you can't put in a side HTML tag as far as I know. So like I had to do that in bricks. So like you can change the HTML tag there at least. So I don't know. I mean, I assume like Core will add more of that. I mean, you can change like a group block to a section block now, but you have to do it manually. Be nice to, I don't know. It'd be nice to see what they develop there to make it a little more semantically structured just out of the box.
Multi-selector plus for Divi. Yeah, I mean, I used Divi like twice in my life and I hated it. But like on 2 projects. But multi-select, there's no way around it. That's a great plus. And sounds like time for an advanced dance. So if this is a reference to advanced Steamer should be doing this. Maxime actually had this on his roadmap for a while, but then Bricks said they were gonna look into it. So I asked Maxime the other day, and he said, "Well, since Bricks is probably gonna do it soon, hopefully, I'm not taking care of it, right?" So it eventually, one way or the other, there's going to be multi-select in Bricks, hopefully sooner rather than later. Max said, I had GPTO build the Postmark site based on a screenshot in about 5 minutes using BEM. Needed a bit of feedback. Now I just need a builder that imports the HTML. So Max, also in a previous stream, I think it was on the Bridge Builder Brains, he talked a lot about building with AI. And it sounds like really he has a bunch of stuff figured out that not everybody is at. Like he's gone pretty far down the AI rabbit hole there.
We gotta talk to Max.
Again,
Get him
Max,
out of here.
come
We
on
don't
the
like
show.
AI.
Definitely come on the
Get him the
show.
fuck out of here.
Probably he is AI. He doesn't exist. So that's why he's not coming on the show.
That comment's AI. Get him out of here. Block him.
It's a constant battle between make the decision for people and make the tool easier to use, give people more freedom and make the tool harder to use. Yes. Yeah. I appreciate Elijah being here. This, I think, is it the first time that we have an actual developer in here? I think so.
Well, depends on how you
As in,
say
like,
developer,
tool-
but developer
tool
of the yeah.
Well,
That, yeah,
I'm a junior developer. that helps out.
We certainly didn't have a Beaver Builder developer in the first one or an Elementor developer. So this is great. This is really good. Elijah, props, man.
But what I appreciate about these conversations is we're not trying to speed build each other, right? It's not like I'm better than Core or Core's better than Breakdance. It's a conversation that, hey, we all have the same objective, like Jonathan said. We want to build better sites for our clients, and we all resonate with a different builder, but we're all trying to reach the same goal.
Yeah.
And I think the conversation is just, I mean, even within the few minutes we showed the workflow, like people can say, hey, man, I kind of gravitate towards Breakdance or Core will be a little bit better for me.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what we're trying to highlight here.
I think there's one thing to add to that though. I think that you guys and all of us here on this thing, we make content, right? We make these tutorials. We have maybe our own agencies, work for agencies, whatever. We're doing our own thing. But like there's so many people in these communities on Facebook and on YouTube that watch our stuff and they're like they're all in a different place. They're all in different places of the world. They're all in different places of their journeys and becoming like developers or designers or what have you. They lack direction just because they might not be in it enough. And then they watch our shit and they're like, oh, it's a lot of it's like who resonates with them, who they resonate with the most as well. So there's all of that baked in there. And then it's just like, something like this, we're just trying to give as much exposure to the different things as possible in the least amount of time. So then they can go and make their own decisions. So that's another thing that I've started to realize is, just because like I want to build, like maybe a group membership website with WooCommerce and all this other sort of shit. Like maybe somebody else wants to build like just simple brochure sites, and my workflow isn't necessarily going to be the same as theirs, nor should it be. You know, and maybe I don't always want to do that, so maybe I'm going to use like bricks for certain things and core for other things. And you know, I think that's what I've learned honestly in my short time of trying to do more community stuff. So I'm just trying to share that with other people as well. I think we all should.
Yeah. And again, this, you know, Paul's comment here is just an emblematic of that, you know, we all find ways to use tools that really work for us, right? Bricks does require some initial setup, that's true, but then it's actually super quick. And I do agree with that. Just perhaps a self plug, I'm actually currently doing a dev diary kind of web series where I'm building a website. Subscribe, watch the thing. And it's like a 13 episode thing. I'm 3 episodes in. Episode 4 is hopefully coming soon. They're all pre-recorded, so I'm cutting out the boring shit, and I'm just showing how I go from a finished Figma design all the way to the complete launched website. So a full bricks build. And you know, I find these things. I started watching Kevin Powell's thing from 2 years ago, where he built a website, and you know, he's hand coding it pretty much. And I find that so instructional and so interesting, because like you sit there and as a developer or a designer, you just figure this shit on your own. You're like, I guess I built it like this and that makes sense. But you never really know how somebody else is building it. Or, you know, you get some idea, but there's so many individual differences. And I really enjoy being able, even just being in a position to give back to the community and showing that my process off, and having hopefully some conversations about how other people are doing it. I think speed comes down to familiarity, right? Yeah. So I can build a website 10 times faster in Oxygen than Elementor, even though ostensibly Elementor would be the easier. So yeah. Don't mute the sound we want to hear.
I was gonna say, Mark, your point, speaking of resonation, I really resonated with, because the tribalism around the tools is actually a complete waste of time. Why do you need to keyboard warrior and demand everybody else use this thing that you perceive as the best? Because like you said, you're coming from a different perspective, a different geographical location, different financial objectives and incentives. You know, your calculus is different. And it's like, to me, it's as stupid as people who are like, Ford versus Chevy. Oh, my F-150 is the best truck. Hell yeah, brother! Like
hell yeah,
Chevy. Oh, yeah,
hell yeah, brother.
351 Ranger, baby.
I'm from Texas. Like, hell yeah.
So there we go. Everybody has their side, and you can argue with people about it all day long. But just like a car, just like a website, they have an objective, and the 1991 Toyota Corolla with 197,000 miles works exactly the same as your 2024 Mercedes-Benz. Yeah. Like, yeah, they operate in different ways, and the requirements to use it or the advantages to using one or the other might be different, but ultimately it's exactly the same. So the tribalism that's developed over the last 18 months or so with regard to these tools has really been, if I'm honest, for me personally, extremely draining, and has made me want to back out of these communities. And so I appreciate you guys, taking the time. I think just watching as a viewer your first couple of streams versus this one, I think you guys in particular hosting this have done an incredible job, with yourselves to better facilitate these conversations. And then Ruben, man, you've opened my eyes and you've spoken so beautifully. It brought a tear, dude. So
welcome. I'll give you a license. I'll buy your license for you.
So yeah, I think the tribalism should just be like, not that everybody can be kumbaya. That doesn't work. That's just not it's just not how it works. But to be, imagine if the effort was spent like lifting each other up. Yeah, we use different tools, but like, here's, some information on like why you might consider using XYZ tool. Not, you're an idiot, you're a dumbass for using this. Yeah. You're inferior to me. You're a chump. Like, all that shit is so whack. So yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I made, like, my most successful video is actually one about RetroArch, which is this platform for emulating old video games. and it has these built-in shaders that can do stuff to the graphics. And there's one shader that I kind of wanted to show off because I really liked it at the time. I still kind of do, but I'm using a different one now, which basically it turns the pixels into smooth lines, right? So it kind of destroys the pixelated look of the games. They look like sort of pencil drawings, and I thought, and I still think, it's a really cool effect, and also technically it's a marvel. So that video has like 140,000 views or something, and it's just got hundreds of comments and there's always somebody going, "This looks like shit. Why would you do this?" And then there's other people going, "This is the best thing ever." And
Yeah.
What I'm saying is like that tribalism is just a human thing. So we're never going to get rid of it.
If I could just add one more perspective on that, because that was beautifully articulated, but my perspective is, I still think it's important for everybody to have their own preference and their opinion. We can't lose that, because you should be able to have that. However, the what I've analyzed in the conversations that I've heard is so many times people speak, they know their tool really well because they use it every day. But then they speak about, and I've been guilty of this, and that's one of the reasons that when Maddie brought this idea to me, it resonated so heavily. It's like, I don't know shit about Generate Press, only just what I've heard through the fucking, through the grapevine. And it's like, I just don't have enough time. We literally do not have enough time to try all these different builders, because it's literally impossible. We're trying to make money. We're trying to do other stuff. Maybe we work for somebody, whatever. So it's like, that is the thing, is you have to preface it with, talk about the shit that you know, and do not, this goes in life in general, don't talk about shit that you don't know. And if you are going to talk about it, it's fine to be curious, ask questions. Like, like when Jonathan's showing something or Ruben's showing something, like, I'm curious about, why did they do it that way? Or why is it done that way? How do you do it in this builder? Because I genuinely want to know. And then, if you want to actually have a discussion, there are some cases where things are a little bit more black and white. It's like, okay, this is objectively possibly a better way, but you can't even have that conversation until you know, like, for a fact, this is how it's done here, this is how it's done over here. And a lot of times that part's missing. So I would just recommend to people, it's like, make sure you know what you're talking about before you start talking, because I think that's actually a big problem a lot of times. So,
and we all need to take that advice ourselves every day. Like, I need to take that advice. Yeah. Okay, so Lex checked in. Nice to see you, man.
Lex.
We watched this. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Daddy duty. Yeah. Been there, done that. Kid's pretty cool now, right now. She acclimatized. That's having fun downstairs. So who knows? It's solar flare hits tomorrow. Yes. 5 years building a website, not you. 5 years AI is building a website, not you. Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out.
We're gonna have Max on. Max is gonna be building some AI shit.
Max, we're gonna work on you. We're gonna find you. We're gonna find out where your car is, and then,
You're gonna start using Divi 5 when it comes out.
Make you come on the show. Let's see. Focusing on fundamentals. No, we are building websites, everything like I do now. Yeah. Max had left a comment on one of my videos, or on some video the other day, where he basically said in the future what is going to happen. And obviously we don't know if that's true, but he says that we're going to be creative directors who have a team of AI, and our role is going to be, literally that, a creative director, and AI is going to do the job for us. And I like that. I like the way he put it. Like, he found really good words to express that. And it's a vision that I even wouldn't mind getting on board with. But obviously we don't know what's going to happen. So yeah, focusing on fundamentals is the best way to future-proof. Great point, Ruben. So what do we have here? It's the most annoying. And I would say, even though the chat is still going, we still have over 30 people here, which just is mind-blowing, that after 2 hours and 48 minutes, we still have this many people watching. Like, our peak was about 50-something people. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. But I just want to say really quick also, like, I went to a couple WordPress meetups this week and invited people. So if you hear from that, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Because the people are interested in this, not just in our little online spaces, but literal humans that you.
Dude, I was gonna say something very similar to that, because the person in chat said, Lucky Chat Creative said, WordPress community is awesome. That's the thing, is like, I've now been to 2 different WordCamps, the one in Europe in 2022 and last year in the US, and it is like pretty much the most fun you can have in the community, like seeing these people that you share Facebook comments and, you know, video calls with, but being able to spend time in person and
Oh,
connect
yeah.
with them on like a more human level. It's just like, it's the best thing. And, you know, I think that's like a way to build bridges. If we're talking about that, it's like, you know, spent like
Touch grass.
on the human level.
Yeah.
I'm going to have
Well,
to jump here pretty soon.
gentlemen, this was wonderful.
Hell
I
yeah.
look forward to more. We do have people in the roster for episodes 4, 5, 6, like easily. We have 3 more episodes with people who are interested in joining us. And then, of course, I'm more than willing and happy to bring previous guests back, you know, show off different, like even the same tools, you know, but build something else. And I think there's a future here. And I really very much look forward to sharing that with you. Thank you so much, Ruben and Jonathan, for being here. This was fantastic. And I believe we're good.
Yeah.
Let's get a round
ready
of
for the
applause
weekend.
for all these guys here.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. Ruben and Jonathan, real quick. Obviously, probably people know you, but where can people find you,
yes.
Jonathan?
My YouTube channel name is Jonathan Jernigan. Website is the same thing. You can subscribe there. I'm short term. I'm planning to cover more blocks content than just generate blocks. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff coming down the pike with Core. So definitely planning to cover more on that. So if you're interested in block editor type stuff, you can find me over there.
Oh yeah, Ruben.
And then my name is Ruben. Oh, my YouTube, it's Building a Better Website. So you can search for that. And also
In the description, by the way. It's all in the description.
Perfect. And then headspinui.com, it's the plugin for Breakdance, which is, like I said, free. And then if you want to upgrade, you can get up to 600 now pre-laid layouts that you can just copy and paste into your website. So
Hell yeah.
So
We
Brandon,
appreciate
there's
you
at least
guys.
2 people here who are here before because you invited them.
I'm going to
D123
give Jonathan
and
a
Ducky
free
Cat.
lifetime membership, just FYI. So you can switch over to Breakdance.
Bingo.
I'll
Pigs
give
will
him
fly, my dude.
Elijah, close your ears. I'm about to give him my cereal, so I have unlimited
Oh
websites.
Jesus.
Elijah, close your ears, please.
Turned off, dude. Those clients are out of luck.
So, thanks for coming. Tell your friends. Share. And we're out.
Oh yeah.
Bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Peace.